The Silent Watchers. Imagine standing on the windswept slopes of Easter Island as dawn breaks over the Pacific. Before you rises an ancient giant, carved from volcanic rock, its stoic face gazing inland, with eyes that have witnessed centuries of secrets. You are surrounded by nearly 1,000 of these silent sentinels, scattered across 25 square miles of remote island terrain. Each statue weighs between 10 and 80 tons. Each was carved from quarries miles away from where they now stand. And each represents one of archaeology's most perplexing questions. How did the Rapa Nui people move these colossal monuments across their island home without wheels, without beasts of burden, and without the advanced machinery we consider essential for such monumental tasks? This is the mystery of the Moai, Easter Island's silent watchers, and their impossible journey across one of the most isolated places on Earth. The story begins more than 1,000 years ago, when Polynesian voyagers first discovered this remote speck of land in the vast Pacific Ocean. They called it Rapa Nui, and it became home to a remarkable civilization that would flourish in complete isolation for centuries. The Rapa Nui people developed a unique culture, creating art, rituals, and monuments unlike anywhere else in the world. At the heart of their society lay an extraordinary obsession with ancestor worship and monumental sculpture. Beginning around 1100 years ago, master carvers began transforming the volcanic rock of Rano Raraku Quarry into towering human figures. These moai, as they came to be known, were not mere decorations or artistic expressions. They were sacred embodiments of deified ancestors, powerful spiritual guardians meant to protect the island's clans and ensure the prosperity of future generations. The craftsmanship required was extraordinary. Using only stone tools, the Rapa Nui sculptors carved intricate features into basalt rock so hard that modern power tools struggled to penetrate it. The largest completed moai stands 33 feet tall and weighs over 80 tons. Most average around 13 feet in height, but even these smaller figures represent massive undertakings that would have required months of dedicated labor. But creating the statues was only the beginning. The true mystery lay in what happened next. Somehow, these massive stone figures had to travel from the quarry at Rano Raraku to ceremonial platforms called ahu, scattered around the island's perimeter. Some journeys covered distances of over 11 miles across rough, uneven terrain. The logistics seem impossible when you consider the tools and technology available to a Stone Age civilization. The mystery of Moai transportation remained hidden from the outside world until Easter Sunday, 1722, when Dutch explorer Jacob Roggeveen became the first European to set foot on the island. He and his crew were astounded by the sight of hundreds of massive stone heads dotting the landscape, but they had little opportunity to investigate their origins before continuing their voyage. It was not until the 19th century that systematic exploration began. Early visitors noted something peculiar. Many moai appeared to be just heads protruding from the ground. It would take more than 2 centuries to discover that these were actually full-bodied statues, buried over time by centuries of soil accumulation and erosion. The first serious archaeological investigations began in the 1950s, when Norwegian explorer Thor Heyerdahl led expeditions to Easter Island. Heyerdahl was fascinated by the question of moai transportation and conducted experiments using teams of local residents to test various theories. His work brought international attention to the mystery, but also raised more questions than it answered. As excavations progressed throughout the 20th century, the scale of the achievement became clear. Nearly 1,000 moai had been carved, with almost half still remaining at the quarry site. The completed statues that had reached their destinations stood on precisely constructed stone platforms, some weighing hundreds of tons themselves. The precision of both the carving and the placement suggested a level of organization and engineering sophistication that challenged assumptions about prehistoric Pacific cultures. But how were they moved? Over the decades, researchers have proposed numerous theories, each attempting to solve this ancient engineering puzzle. The most obvious explanation involved rolling the statues horizontally on wooden logs. This theory gained support from experiments showing that teams of people could indeed move massive stone blocks using this method. The island was once heavily forested, providing ample timber for such an undertaking. Computer models suggested that crews of 70 to 100 people could transport a typical moai over several days. However, this theory faced significant problems. Rolling massive statues would require enormous wooden rollers and perfectly clear, level paths. The volcanic terrain of Easter Island, with its rocky outcrops and steep slopes, seems poorly suited for such transport. Moreover, many moai show no signs of the damage that would be expected from prolonged contact with rolling logs. A second theory proposed the use of wooden sleds or platforms. Statues could be secured to sturdy wooden frameworks and dragged across the landscape using rope systems and human power. This method would provide better control and protection for the delicate carvings, but would require even more wood and manpower than rolling. Some researchers suggested that the moai were transported upright, somehow maintaining their vertical orientation throughout the journey. This theory seemed absurd until 2012, when experimental archaeologists Terry Hunt and Carl Lipo conducted a remarkable demonstration. Working with a concrete replica of a typical moai, they showed that a statue could indeed walk upright, using a carefully coordinated rocking motion controlled by 3 teams of rope handlers. The walking theory was revolutionary. It explained why so many moai along ancient roads appear to be looking forward, as if frozen mid-stride. It also accounted for the high rate of statue breakage found along transport routes, as walking would be inherently unstable and dangerous on rough terrain. But could this method really work for the largest moai? And how did the Rapa Nui develop such a sophisticated technique? Some researchers have proposed even more speculative explanations, including the use of sophisticated lever systems, ramp networks, or even unknown technologies that have been lost to history. Modern scientific investigation has brought new tools to bear on this ancient mystery. Ground-penetrating radar has revealed the hidden pathways that connected quarries to statue platforms, showing a sophisticated network of roads engineered specifically for moai transport. These roads were carefully graded and cleared of obstacles, suggesting systematic planning on an island-wide scale. Archaeological analysis of tool marks on statue surfaces has provided clues about carving techniques and the sequence of manufacturing steps. Microscopic examination of volcanic rock samples has helped researchers understand the properties of the raw materials and how they would behave under stress during transport. Computer modeling and engineering analysis have tested the feasibility of various transport methods under realistic conditions. These studies consider factors like rope strength, human endurance, terrain obstacles, and the physics of moving massive objects with primitive technology. Experimental archaeology has played a crucial role, with researchers building full-scale replicas to test different theories. These experiments have shown that while moai transport was certainly possible with Stone Age technology, it would have required extraordinary organization, planning, and cooperation across the entire society. Isotope analysis of the volcanic rock has revealed that nearly all moai were carved from stone originating at Rano Raraku, confirming the centralized nature of the quarrying operation. This finding raises questions about how such a massive undertaking was organized and controlled. Recent DNA studies of modern Rapa Nui descendants have provided insights into the island's population history and social structure, offering clues about how labor might have been organized for monument construction and transport. Yet despite these advances, the mystery persists. Each new discovery seems to reveal additional layers of complexity rather than simple answers. Today, Easter Island faces unprecedented challenges that threaten both the moai themselves and our ability to understand their secrets. Climate change is accelerating erosion and weathering of the volcanic stone. Rising sea levels threaten coastal platforms where many moai stand guard. Increased tourism, while providing economic benefits to the island, also brings conservation challenges, as thousands of visitors each year impact these fragile archaeological sites. Modern development pressures compete with preservation efforts. The island's small population struggles to balance economic needs with protecting their ancestral heritage. International conservation organizations work alongside local communities to develop sustainable management strategies, but resources are limited and the challenges are growing. Political and ethical questions also complicate research efforts. Who has the right to study these monuments? How should indigenous knowledge and oral traditions be incorporated into scientific investigation? These questions reflect broader debates about archaeology, colonialism, and cultural ownership that affect research worldwide. The moai also face more immediate physical threats. Several statues have been damaged by natural disasters, including tsunamis and earthquakes. Others show signs of vandalism or unauthorized restoration attempts. Each incident represents an irreversible loss of information about the past. Conservation efforts focus on stabilizing existing monuments while minimizing further damage. Advanced materials and techniques help preserve stone surfaces while maintaining the authentic appearance of the statues. Documentation projects use three-dimensional scanning and photography to create detailed records that will serve future researchers even if the originals are lost. But perhaps the greatest challenge is time itself. With each passing year, the moai weather a little more, the island changes a little more, and opportunities to understand their secrets diminish. The silent watchers continue their eternal vigil, but they are slowly losing their battle against the elements. As you stand once again among these ancient giants, watching the sun set over the Pacific, the mystery deepens rather than resolves. How did a Stone Age civilization accomplish what seems impossible even today? Was it through ingenious engineering that we have yet to fully understand? Did they possess knowledge or techniques that have been lost to time? Or do the moai hold secrets that science is still not equipped to unlock? The silent watchers of Easter Island continue to guard their ancient secrets, challenging us to expand our understanding of human capability and ingenuity. They remind us that our ancestors were capable of extraordinary achievements that continue to inspire wonder and respect. In their stoic silence, they pose questions that may never be fully answered, ensuring that the mystery of their impossible journey will continue to captivate future generations. Perhaps that is as it should be. Some mysteries are more powerful as questions than as answers, more meaningful as inspiration than as solved puzzles. The moai stand as eternal reminders that human achievement often transcends our ability to explain it, and that the past still holds secrets worthy of our deepest respect and wonder. What do you think? Could ancient engineering techniques we have forgotten explain the mystery of moai transport? Or do these silent watchers guard secrets that science has yet to discover? Share your theories in the comments below, and subscribe for more explorations into the ancient mysteries that continue to challenge our understanding of the past. The Buried Giants. Imagine walking across the rolling grasslands of Easter Island, where hundreds of mysterious stone heads emerge from the earth like ancient guardians frozen in time. You approach one of these weathered faces, noting how the volcanic stone has been carved into human features that seem almost alive in the shifting light. But as you circle around this monument, something extraordinary becomes apparent. What you are seeing is not a head at all, but merely the tip of something far more magnificent and mysterious. Buried beneath your feet, hidden by centuries of accumulated soil and sediment, lies the full body of a colossal statue, complete with intricate carvings, mysterious symbols, and artistic details that have remained hidden from the world for generations. This is the secret of Easter Island's buried giants, a discovery that has revolutionized our understanding of the Moai and raised profound questions about what catastrophic forces could bury monuments that once stood 40 feet tall beneath tons of earth and stone. To understand the mystery of the buried Moai, we must first journey back to the golden age of Rapa Nui civilization. Between the years 1000 and 1600, the island supported a thriving population that may have reached 15,000 people at its peak. This remote society, isolated by thousands of miles of Pacific Ocean, developed one of the world's most remarkable sculptural traditions. The Moai were far more than simple statues. They represented the living spirits of deified ancestors, powerful guardians who watched over their descendants and protected the island's precious resources. Each statue was commissioned by a specific clan or family group, carved by master craftsmen who passed their knowledge through generations of apprenticeship. The creation of a Moai was an enormous undertaking that could take months or even years to complete. Teams of sculptors worked with basalt picks and obsidian blades to shape the hard volcanic rock of Rano Raraku quarry. The process began with rough blocking, gradually refining the features until the statue achieved its final form. The largest completed Moai stands over 30 feet tall and weighs more than 70 tons, representing thousands of hours of skilled labor. But the Moai were never intended to remain at the quarry. Most were destined for ceremonial platforms called ahu, constructed around the island's perimeter, where they would serve as spiritual guardians and symbols of clan prestige. The journey from quarry to platform was itself a sacred ritual, with entire communities participating in the transport of their ancestral protectors. When the statues reached their final destinations, they stood as magnificent monuments to Rapa Nui artistry and spiritual belief. Rising from carefully constructed stone platforms, these giants dominated the landscape, their imposing presence visible from miles away. They were living embodiments of ancestral power, connecting the world of the living with the realm of the spirits. For centuries, the Moai stood watch over Easter Island, witnessing the rise and eventual decline of the civilization that created them. But somewhere in their long history, something remarkable and mysterious occurred. The giants began to disappear, not through destruction or removal, but through burial beneath the very ground on which they stood. The world first learned of Easter Island's mysterious stone heads when Dutch explorer Jacob Roggeveen landed on the island during Easter Sunday in 1722. European visitors over the following centuries were captivated by these enigmatic monuments, but they saw only what appeared to be massive carved heads protruding from grassy hillsides. This perception persisted for nearly 3 centuries. Artists, explorers, and early photographers all depicted the Moai as head-only sculptures, and this image became firmly embedded in popular imagination. The Easter Island statues were the mysterious stone heads, nothing more. The truth began to emerge in the 1950s, when Norwegian archaeologist Thor Heyerdahl conducted the first systematic excavations around several Moai. His team made an astonishing discovery. The supposed heads were actually the tips of complete statues, whose bodies had been buried beneath centuries of accumulated sediment. The revelation was revolutionary. Excavations revealed that these buried giants possessed full torsos, arms, and hands, many bearing intricate carvings and mysterious petroglyphs that had never been documented. Some statues were buried so deeply that their heads, which had been visible above ground for centuries, represented less than half of their total height. The most dramatic discoveries came during excavations at Rano Raraku, the main quarry site where nearly 400 Moai remain. As archaeologists carefully removed layers of soil and volcanic debris, they uncovered a hidden world of artistic detail. Bodies emerged decorated with elaborate belt designs, ceremonial loincloths, and complex geometric patterns. Many bore mysterious symbols that resembled the undeciphered Rongorongo script found on wooden tablets throughout the island. One of the most remarkable finds was a moai, whose torso revealed carved sailing ships, complete with masts and rigging. This discovery suggested that at least some of the buried carvings had been added after European contact, raising questions about when and why these monuments had been buried. But perhaps the most intriguing discovery was the positioning of the buried statues' hands. Many moai were found with their arms bent at the elbows, hands positioned over their abdomens in poses that seemed to suggest reverence or protection. This discovery challenged long-held assumptions about moai design and purpose. But what could have caused such massive monuments to become buried? How do statues that once towered above the landscape end up hidden beneath tons of earth and sediment? The first and most obvious explanation focuses on natural sedimentation processes. Easter Island experiences significant wind erosion, with soil and volcanic debris constantly moving across the landscape. Over centuries, this material could accumulate around the base of statues, gradually burying them through natural geological processes. This theory gained support from the island's documented environmental changes. Ancient pollen studies show that Easter Island was once heavily forested, but underwent massive deforestation beginning around 1200 years ago. The loss of vegetation would have dramatically increased erosion rates, sending loose soil flowing down slopes where it could accumulate around monuments. Volcanic activity could also contribute to burial. Easter Island has 3 major volcanic craters, and periodic eruptions over the centuries would have deposited layers of ash and debris across the landscape. Particularly large eruptions could potentially bury entire statues in relatively short periods. However, natural sedimentation alone seems insufficient to explain the depth of burial observed at many sites. Some moai are buried more than 20 feet deep, representing centuries or even millennia of accumulation at rates that seem too rapid for normal geological processes. A second theory suggests intentional burial by the Rapa Nui people themselves. Perhaps facing some crisis or threat, communities chose to hide their precious monuments beneath the earth for protection. This theory finds support in similar practices observed in other Polynesian cultures, where sacred objects were often buried during times of warfare or social upheaval. Intentional burial could explain some of the mysteries surrounding the buried moai. The careful positioning of hands and the presence of additional carvings on buried surfaces suggest that people had access to these areas even after burial began. Perhaps the monuments were gradually buried over time as part of ongoing cultural or religious practices. Some researchers have proposed that burial was related to changes in religious beliefs or social organization. As traditional clan structures broke down and new spiritual practices emerged, older monuments might have been buried to make way for different forms of religious expression. But could there be more dramatic explanations? A third theory suggests catastrophic environmental events that rapidly buried the statues in short periods of time. Tsunami evidence from other Pacific islands shows that massive waves periodically strike Easter Island, potentially carrying enormous volumes of sediment inland. A particularly large tsunami could theoretically bury coastal monuments under tons of debris in a matter of hours. Similarly, massive landslides triggered by earthquakes or volcanic activity could rapidly bury large areas of the island. Easter Island sits in a seismically active region where such events are certainly possible, though geological evidence for specific catastrophic burial events remains limited. Climate change represents another potential factor. Dramatic shifts in weather patterns could alter erosion and sedimentation rates, leading to rapid burial under specific conditions. Ice age cycles and associated sea level changes could create conditions that promote accelerated sedimentation. More speculative theories suggest unknown natural phenomena, or even human activities that we have yet to understand. Some researchers have proposed that the burial patterns indicate sophisticated knowledge of preservation techniques, suggesting that the Rapa Nui deliberately buried statues to protect them from weathering and environmental damage. Modern scientific investigation has brought sophisticated tools to bear on the mystery of the buried Moai. Ground-penetrating radar surveys have revealed the extent of burial across the island, showing that hundreds of statues remain partially or completely hidden beneath the surface. Stratigraphic analysis of soil layers around buried Moai provides detailed information about sedimentation rates and the sequence of burial events. By studying the chemical composition and dating of different soil layers, researchers can reconstruct the environmental conditions that led to burial. Radiocarbon dating of organic materials found within burial layers helps establish timelines for when burial occurred. These studies have revealed that burial was not a single event, but rather an ongoing process that occurred over several centuries. Three-dimensional scanning and photogrammetry allow researchers to create detailed digital models of buried Moai without fully excavating them. This technology preserves archaeological context while providing unprecedented access to hidden artistic details. Microscopic analysis of soil samples reveals information about the source and transport mechanisms of buried sediments. This data helps distinguish between natural sedimentation, intentional burial, and catastrophic deposition events. Experimental archaeology has tested various burial scenarios using scale models and controlled conditions. These experiments help researchers understand the physical processes that could lead to rapid or gradual burial of large monuments. Despite these advances, significant questions remain unanswered. The burial process appears to have been complex and variable, with different statues buried at different times through different mechanisms. Today, the buried Moai face unprecedented challenges that threaten both their preservation and our ability to study them. Climate change is altering precipitation patterns on Easter Island, potentially accelerating erosion and sedimentation processes that could further bury or expose buried statues. Rising temperatures and changing weather patterns affect the chemical stability of volcanic rock, potentially accelerating weathering processes that damage buried surfaces. Increased storm activity could rapidly alter burial depths, exposing previously protected surfaces to environmental damage. Tourism pressure creates both opportunities and challenges for studying buried Moai. Increased visitor interest provides funding for research and conservation, but also increases the risk of damage from foot traffic and unauthorized digging. Excavation itself presents ethical and practical dilemmas. Fully exposing buried Moai provides access to previously hidden artistic and cultural information, but also exposes these surfaces to weathering and environmental damage. Once excavated, statues require ongoing conservation efforts to prevent deterioration. Limited resources mean that only a small percentage of buried Moai can be fully excavated and studied. Researchers must make difficult choices about which statues to investigate, while ensuring that excavation activities do not damage other buried monuments. The Rapa Nui community plays an increasingly important role in decisions about excavation and conservation. As descendants of the Moai builders, they have legitimate interests in how their ancestral heritage is studied and preserved. Balancing scientific investigation with cultural sensitivity requires ongoing dialogue and cooperation. International conservation efforts focus on developing techniques that allow study of buried Moai while minimizing environmental exposure. Advanced imaging technologies offer promising alternatives to full excavation, but these methods are expensive and require specialized expertise. Documentation efforts attempt to record as much information as possible about buried Moai before environmental changes alter or destroy them. Digital archives ensure that future researchers will have access to detailed records, even if physical monuments are lost. Standing once again among these partially hidden giants, watching the wind move across the grasslands that conceal so many secrets, the mystery deepens rather than resolves. Why were monuments that once dominated the landscape gradually swallowed by the earth itself? Was this burial the result of slow natural processes, intentional human actions, or catastrophic events that we have yet to understand? The buried moai challenge our assumptions about permanence and the relationship between human achievement and natural forces. They remind us that even the most monumental human creations are subject to the inexorable processes of time and environmental change. Perhaps more importantly, they demonstrate that there are still profound mysteries waiting to be discovered, literally beneath our feet. Each excavation reveals new artistic details, cultural information, and scientific puzzles that expand our understanding of this remarkable civilization. The buried giants of Easter Island continue to guard their secrets, hidden beneath centuries of accumulated earth and stone. They serve as powerful reminders that the past is never truly past, that ancient mysteries continue to shape our understanding of human achievement and environmental change. In their buried silence, they pose questions that challenge archaeology, geology, and climatology to develop new techniques and theories capable of unlocking their secrets. They ensure that Easter Island will continue to surprise and inspire researchers for generations to come. What do you think caused these magnificent monuments to disappear beneath the earth? Could natural processes alone explain such dramatic burial? Or do these hidden giants hold clues to catastrophic events in Easter Island's past? Share your theories in the comments below and subscribe to explore more ancient mysteries that continue to emerge from the shadows of history. The Rongorongo script. Imagine holding in your hands a piece of driftwood, smooth and weathered by countless Pacific storms, its surface covered with hundreds of tiny symbols carved with meticulous precision. Birds, fish, human figures, and abstract geometric shapes dance across the wood in orderly lines, each symbol no larger than your fingernail, yet rendered with extraordinary artistic skill. You are looking at one of the most mysterious documents in human history, a wooden tablet from Easter Island inscribed with a writing system that no living person can read. These symbols, known as Rongorongo, represent one of only a handful of undeciphered scripts remaining in the world, a code that has resisted every attempt at translation for more than a century and a half. This is the mystery of Rongorongo, Easter Island's lost language, a sophisticated writing system that may hold the keys to understanding one of the Pacific's most enigmatic civilizations, yet continues to guard its secrets in silent wooden testimony to knowledge that may be lost forever. To understand the significance of Rongorongo, we must first appreciate the remarkable isolation and cultural achievement of the Rapa Nui people who created it. Easter Island, known locally as Rapa Nui, lies more than 2,000 miles from the nearest populated land, making it one of the most remote inhabited places on Earth. Despite this isolation, or perhaps because of it, the Rapa Nui developed a unique and sophisticated culture that produced not only the famous Moai statues, but also what appears to be the only indigenous writing system in all of Oceania. The development of writing systems represents one of humanity's greatest intellectual achievements, occurring independently in only a few locations worldwide. Mesopotamian cuneiform, Egyptian hieroglyphs, Chinese characters, and Mesoamerican glyphs each emerged from specific cultural needs and conditions, allowing their creators to record language, preserve knowledge, and transmit complex information across generations. For Rongorongo to have developed in complete isolation on a tiny Pacific island represents an extraordinary intellectual accomplishment. The Rapa Nui people, with no outside influence or model to follow, somehow developed their own unique method of encoding their language in visual symbols. This achievement places them among a very select group of human societies that independently invented writing. The symbols themselves are remarkably sophisticated, displaying characteristics found in advanced writing systems worldwide. They include pictographic elements that clearly represent recognizable objects, ideographic symbols that represent abstract concepts, and what appear to be phonetic elements that represent sounds rather than meanings. This combination suggests a mature writing system capable of recording the full complexity of human language. The physical tablets on which Rongorongo appears are equally remarkable. Carved on pieces of wood, often driftwood that had washed ashore from distant lands, these tablets were clearly precious objects. The wood was carefully prepared and shaped, then covered with symbols carved using shark teeth or obsidian blades. The precision and uniformity of the carving suggests that Rongorongo scribes underwent extensive training to master their craft. The arrangement of symbols on the tablets follows a unique pattern called reverse boustrophodon, meaning that alternate lines are written in opposite directions, and the symbols in every other line are inverted. This creates a distinctive zigzag reading pattern that is unlike any other known writing system, suggesting that Rongorongo developed entirely independently of outside influence. The mystery of Rongorongo first came to Western attention in the 1860s, when French missionary Eugène Ayrault arrived on Easter Island and discovered the carved tablets in Rapa Nui homes. In his reports, Ayrault described finding wooden boards covered with hieroglyphic characters in every house on the island, noting that the islanders appeared to revere these objects, but could no longer read them. This timing was tragically significant. The 1850s and 60s marked a period of devastating decline for Rapa Nui society. Peruvian slave raids had kidnapped much of the population, including most of the island's religious and intellectual leaders. European diseases had decimated those who remained. By the time missionaries and other outsiders began taking serious interest in Rongorongo, the knowledge of how to read it had apparently died with the learned class who had maintained the tradition. Brother Ayrault and later missionaries collected as many tablets as they could find, recognizing their apparent importance to Rapa Nui culture. However, their primary goal was Christian conversion, and many tablets were destroyed as part of efforts to eliminate traditional religious practices. Of the hundreds of tablets that may once have existed, only 25 authentic examples survive today, scattered in museums and private collections around the world. The first serious attempts at decipherment began in the 1870s, when Bishop Florentin, Etienne Jausen, obtained several tablets and began working with a Rapa Nui man named Metoro Tau'aupa, who claimed to be able to read some of the symbols. Metoro provided chanted recitations for various passages, but his interpretations were often inconsistent and seemed to involve creative storytelling rather than literal translation. Subsequent researchers have debated whether Metoro was actually reading the tablets or simply improvising based on the imagery he saw. His recitations do contain genuine Rapa Nui words and phrases, but they don't appear to follow the sequential order of the symbols on the tablets. This has led to ongoing debates about whether Rongorongo represents true writing in the linguistic sense or some other form of symbolic communication. What do these mysterious symbols actually represent? Over the past century and a half, researchers have proposed numerous theories about the nature and content of Rongorongo texts. The most straightforward interpretation suggests that Rongorongo represents a form of historical and genealogical record-keeping. Many Polynesian cultures maintained detailed oral histories of their rulers, migrations, and important events. Rongorongo tablets could serve as memory aids for reciting these histories, with symbols representing key names, places, and events in chronological order. This theory gains support from Metoro's recitations, which often include genealogical information and references to historical figures known from Rapa Nui oral tradition. Several tablets appear to contain repeated sequences that could represent standardized genealogical formulas or ceremonial phrases used in historical recitation. Some researchers have identified what appear to be numerical sequences in Rongorongo, suggesting that the tablets might record quantitative information such as population counts, resource inventories, or tribute payments. This would align with the administrative functions of writing systems in many other cultures. A second major theory proposes that Rongorongo tablets contain religious or ceremonial texts. The reverence with which the Rapa Nui treated these objects, combined with their apparent use in ritual contexts, suggests spiritual significance. The tablets might contain prayers, chants, creation myths, or ritual instructions that were essential to traditional religious practices. This interpretation is supported by the presence of symbols that appear to represent spiritual concepts and supernatural beings from Rapa Nui mythology. Several tablets contain repeated sequences that could represent ceremonial formulas or liturgical responses used in religious ceremonies. The unique reverse boustrophedon writing pattern might itself have ritual significance, creating a sacred text that could only be read by trained priests or ritual specialists. The physical act of reading such texts, with their unusual directional changes and inverted symbols, could have been part of ceremonial performance. Some tablets appear to be organized around recurring themes or motifs that could represent different aspects of religious belief or practice. The famous Santiago staff, one of the longest Rongorongo texts, contains sequences that seem to describe cosmic events or mythological narratives central to Rapa Nui spiritual tradition. A third theory suggests that Rongorongo tablets serve as astronomical records or calendrical systems. Easter Island's isolated position in the Pacific made navigation and timekeeping crucial skills for its inhabitants. The tablets might record observations of celestial movements, seasonal changes, or ceremonial calendars based on astronomical events. This theory finds support in the presence of symbols that clearly represent celestial objects such as the sun, moon, and stars. Some researchers have identified sequences that might correspond to lunar months or seasonal cycles important for agricultural and ceremonial activities. The tablets might also record navigational information crucial for long-distance voyaging, including star positions, wind patterns, and seasonal migration routes of marine animals. Such information would have been vital for maintaining contact with other Pacific islands and ensuring the survival of Easter Island's isolated population. More speculative theories suggest that Rongorongo represents a form of proto-scientific record-keeping, documenting observations of natural phenomena, weather patterns, or ecological changes that affected the island. Some researchers have proposed that the tablets might contain early attempts at mathematical notation or logical reasoning systems. The most controversial theory suggests that Rongorongo is not true writing at all, but rather a form of artistic or symbolic expression that inspired creative recitation rather than literal reading. This interpretation argues that the symbols serve as prompts for improvised storytelling or ceremonial performance, similar to memory aids used in some oral cultures. Modern scientific investigation has brought new tools and methodologies to bear on the Rongorongo mystery. Computer analysis has identified statistical patterns in symbol, frequency, and distribution that provide clues about the underlying structure of the writing system. Digital imaging and high-resolution photography have revealed previously unnoticed details in tablet inscriptions, including evidence of corrections, additions, and variations in carving technique that provide information about how the tablets were created and used. Linguistic analysis has compared Rongorongo symbols with known Polynesian languages and writing systems from other cultures, searching for cognates or borrowed elements that might provide clues to decipherment. While no direct connections have been established, these studies have revealed interesting parallels with other Pacific Island symbolic systems. Carbon dating and wood analysis have provided information about when the tablets were created and what materials were used. These studies suggest that most surviving tablets date from the 18th or early 19th centuries, during the final period of traditional Rapa Nui culture. Statistical analysis of symbol sequences has identified recurring patterns and possible grammatical structures within Rongorongo texts. Computer algorithms have detected repetitive elements that might represent common words, grammatical markers, or formulaic phrases used in formal discourse. Comparative studies with other undeciphered scripts have identified methodological approaches that might be applicable to Rongo-Rongo. Techniques developed for Linear A, Indus Valley Script, and other mysterious writing systems provide frameworks for systematic analysis of symbol patterns and linguistic structures. However, Rongo-Rongo presents unique challenges that have frustrated every decipherment attempt. Unlike other ancient scripts that were used for centuries and appear on thousands of documents, Rongo-Rongo survives in only 25 examples, providing an extremely limited corpus for analysis. The loss of native speakers who understood the writing system means that there are no bilingual texts or living informants to provide direct translation. This contrasts sharply with successful decipherments like Egyptian hieroglyphs, where the Rosetta Stone provided crucial bilingual evidence. Today, Rongo-Rongo faces new challenges that threaten both the physical tablets and our ability to study them. The wooden tablets are extremely fragile, vulnerable to changes in humidity, temperature, and light exposure that can cause cracking, warping, and symbol deterioration. Many tablets are scattered in museums and private collections worldwide, making comprehensive study difficult and expensive. Different institutions have varying policies about access and research, creating barriers to systematic comparative analysis. Climate change poses new threats to tablet preservation, as changing environmental conditions affect the stability of organic materials. Museums must invest in sophisticated climate control systems to ensure long-term preservation of these irreplaceable artifacts. Digital preservation efforts are creating high-resolution archives of all surviving tablets, ensuring that detailed records will survive even if physical tablets are lost. These digital collections allow researchers worldwide to study Rongo-Rongo without handling fragile originals. The ethical dimensions of Rongo-Rongo research have become increasingly important as indigenous rights movements emphasize community control over cultural heritage. The Rapa Nui people are asserting greater involvement in decisions about how their ancestral writing system is studied and interpreted. Some researchers argue that traditional Western approaches to decipherment may be inadequate for understanding a writing system that developed in complete cultural isolation. New methodologies that incorporate indigenous knowledge systems and alternative approaches to textual interpretation might be necessary. The small number of surviving tablets means that every research decision carries enormous weight. Destructive testing methods that might provide valuable information could irreversibly damage irreplaceable artifacts, creating difficult choices between advancing knowledge and preserving physical heritage. Standing in the quiet halls of a museum, gazing at these small wooden tablets covered with their mysterious symbols, the magnitude of what has been lost becomes overwhelming. Here lies an entire intellectual tradition, a unique way of encoding human thought and experience, reduced to 25 fragments that resist every attempt at understanding. The Rongo-Rongo script represents one of humanity's most remarkable intellectual achievements, the independent invention of writing in one of the world's most isolated locations. Yet it also symbolizes the fragility of human knowledge and the devastating consequences of cultural destruction. Perhaps the greatest mystery of Rongo-Rongo is not what it says, but what its silence tells us about the nature of knowledge itself. These tablets serve as powerful reminders that human intellectual achievement can be both extraordinary and ephemeral, that entire ways of understanding the world can vanish without warning. The symbols continue to dance across their wooden surfaces, as enigmatic today as they were when Brother Irod first encountered them more than a century and a half ago. They pose questions that challenge our assumptions about writing, language, and the transmission of knowledge across generations. In their silent testimony, the Rongo-Rongo tablets remind us that there are still profound mysteries waiting to be solved, codes that may unlock new understanding of human achievement and cultural development. They ensure that Easter Island will continue to surprise and challenge researchers who dare to confront the limits of human knowledge. What secrets do you think these ancient symbols hold? Could they contain the lost history of Easter Island? Or do they represent something entirely different from any writing system we know? Share your theories about the Rongorongo mystery in the comments below, and subscribe to explore more ancient puzzles that continue to challenge our understanding of the human past. The Red Hat Enigma. Imagine standing before one of Easter Island's most magnificent moai, its weathered volcanic face gazing stoically across the Pacific landscape. But this giant is different from the hundreds of others scattered across Rapa Nui. Atop its massive head sits a colossal red crown, carved from a completely different type of stone and weighing more than 13 tons. You marvel at how this enormous cylindrical hat balances perfectly on the statue's head, its russet surface contrasting dramatically with the gray basalt below. The precision required to quarry, transport, and position such a massive object on top of an already towering monument seems to defy the capabilities of any ancient civilization. Yet here it rests, a testament to engineering skills that challenge everything we thought we knew about the technological capabilities of the Rapa Nui people. This is the mystery of the Pukao, Easter Island's enigmatic red hats, massive stone crowns that represent one of the most sophisticated engineering achievements in the ancient Pacific, yet remain among the least understood aspects of Rapa Nui monumental architecture. To understand the significance of the Pukao, we must first appreciate the broader context of Rapa Nui society and their extraordinary tradition of monumental sculpture. The moai themselves represent one of humanity's most remarkable artistic achievements, with nearly 1,000 statues carved over several centuries by master craftsmen using only stone tools. These monuments served as spiritual guardians, representing deified ancestors who watched over their descendants and protected the island's precious resources. But not all moai were created equal. While hundreds of statues remained unadorned, a select group of the most prestigious monuments received additional ornamentation in the form of massive red stone crowns. These pukao, as they are known in the Rapa Nui language, were reserved for only the most important statues, those representing the most powerful ancestors, or positioned at the most sacred ceremonial sites. The creation of pukao required mastery of entirely different materials and techniques than those used for the moai themselves. While the statues were carved from gray basalt found at Rano Raraku Quarry, the red crowns were made from scoria, a porous volcanic rock quarried exclusively from Punapau crater on the opposite side of the island. This red scoria was much softer than basalt, allowing for more rapid carving, but it was also more fragile and prone to weathering. The contrast between the materials was deliberate and symbolic. The gray basalt of the moai represented the permanent, enduring nature of ancestral authority, while the red scoria of the pukao symbolized vitality, power, and sacred energy. In many Polynesian cultures, red is associated with divinity, royal status, and spiritual power, making the red crowns powerful symbols of elevated status within the ancestral hierarchy. The physical characteristics of the pukao are remarkable. These cylindrical stone crowns range in height from 3 to 8 feet and weigh between 2 and 13 tons. Each one was individually carved to fit the specific dimensions of its intended moai, requiring precise measurements and calculations to ensure proper balance and stability. The largest pukao weighs more than a fully loaded cement truck and measures nearly 8 feet in diameter. When placed atop a moai that already stands 15 to 20 feet tall, the combined monument reaches heights of over 30 feet, creating an imposing presence that would have been visible from miles away across the island landscape. The carving quality of the pukao demonstrates sophisticated understanding of sculptural principles. Despite being made from relatively soft volcanic rock, many examples show intricate surface details and carefully planned proportions that complement the moai beneath them. Some pukao show evidence of additional carving or modification after their initial creation, suggesting ongoing maintenance and refinement of these important monuments. The mystery of the Pukao first captured scientific attention in the late 19th century, when the first systematic archaeological surveys of Easter Island began documenting the full scope of Rapa Nui monumental architecture. Early researchers were puzzled by these massive red crowns, which seemed to represent an entirely separate phase of construction distinct from the moai themselves. The first detailed studies of Pukao construction began in the 1950s, when Norwegian archaeologist Thor Heyerdahl conducted excavations at several moai sites. Heyerdahl's team discovered that many Pukao had fallen from their perches over the centuries, some breaking into multiple fragments upon impact. However, several examples remained in their original positions, providing crucial evidence about ancient construction techniques. Archaeological investigation revealed that approximately 100 Pukao had been carved at Punapau Quarry, though only about 30 had been successfully transported to moai sites around the island. The remainder were abandoned at various stages of completion, providing insights into the manufacturing process, but raising questions about why so many projects were left unfinished. Excavations at Punapau revealed a sophisticated quarrying operation, with evidence of systematic stone extraction, tool caches, and worker settlements. The quarry site showed clear organization and planning, with different areas designated for various stages of Pukao production. Partially completed crowns in various stages of carving provided a detailed picture of the manufacturing sequence. But the most intriguing discoveries came from studying the moai sites themselves. Archaeological evidence showed that Pukao had been placed on completed moai statues, not during their original construction. This meant that crews had somehow managed to lift multi-ton stone crowns to heights of 20 feet or more, and position them with extraordinary precision on top of already standing monuments. The engineering challenges involved in this process seemed almost insurmountable. How could ancient engineers lift such massive objects to such heights without modern machinery? What techniques allowed them to achieve the precise positioning required for stable placement? But what techniques could have accomplished such a remarkable engineering feat? Researchers have proposed several theories to explain how the Rapa Nui people managed to place these massive crowns atop their towering statues. The most straightforward explanation involves the construction of temporary earthen ramps. According to this theory, workers would have built sloping ramps of soil and stone leading up to the tops of completed moai. Pukao could then be rolled or dragged up these ramps and maneuvered into position using ropes and wooden levers. This theory gains support from similar techniques used in other ancient civilizations. Egyptian pyramid builders used ramps to move massive stone blocks to great heights, and similar methods were employed in Mesoamerican construction projects. The soft volcanic soil of Easter Island would have been well suited for temporary ramp construction. However, ramp construction would have required enormous amounts of earth and stone, creating massive earthworks that should have left archaeological evidence. While some researchers have identified possible ramp remnants at certain moai sites, the evidence remains inconclusive and disputed. A second theory proposes the use of sophisticated wooden scaffolding and lifting systems. Master builders could have constructed complex frameworks of timber beams and rope pulleys, creating primitive but effective cranes capable of hoisting Pukao to the required heights. This approach would explain the precision of Pukao placement, as scaffold systems could provide much more control than ramp-based methods. The abundance of trees on Easter Island during the monument building period would have provided ample timber for such constructions. Experimental archaeology has shown that relatively simple wooden machines can lift surprising heavy loads when properly designed and operated. Teams of workers using coordinated rope and pulley systems could theoretically manage loads of several tons, making Pukao placement feasible using available technology. But scaffolding systems would leave little archaeological evidence after their wooden components decayed, making this theory difficult to verify through conventional archaeological methods. A third theory suggests that pukao were placed on moai during the original statue erection process, not after the monuments were already standing. According to this interpretation, both moai and pukao were transported together and erected simultaneously using integrated lifting systems. This approach would simplify the engineering requirements by eliminating the need to work at height around existing monuments. Instead of lifting crowns onto completed statues, builders would raise combined moai pukao assemblies as single units. However, this theory faces significant logistical challenges. The combined weight of moai and pukao would make transportation and erection extremely difficult, possibly exceeding the capabilities of available technology and manpower. More speculative theories propose advanced engineering techniques that have been lost to history. Some researchers suggest that the Rapa Nui possessed sophisticated knowledge of leverage, counterweights, and mechanical advantage that enabled them to accomplish seemingly impossible tasks using ingenious but unknown methods. These theories find support in other examples of ancient engineering that seem to exceed expected technological capabilities. From the precision of Egyptian pyramid construction to the massive stone blocks of Sacsayhuaman in Peru, ancient civilizations repeatedly achieved feats that challenge modern understanding of prehistoric capabilities. Could the Rapa Nui have developed unique engineering solutions that we have yet to rediscover? Might their isolated environment have fostered innovative approaches to mechanical problems that were unnecessary in other cultures? Modern scientific investigation has brought new tools and techniques to bear on the pukao mystery. Three-dimensional laser scanning has created detailed digital models of both moai and pukao, allowing researchers to analyze their dimensional relationships with unprecedented precision. Engineering analysis of pukao placement has revealed sophisticated understanding of balance, weight distribution, and structural stability. Many crowns are positioned with remarkable accuracy, suggesting systematic knowledge of engineering principles rather than trial and error approaches. Geological analysis of scoria samples has provided insights into the material properties of pukao stone and how these characteristics affected quarrying, carving, and transport processes. Understanding the physical behavior of red scoria helps researchers evaluate the feasibility of various construction theories. Computer modeling has tested different construction scenarios, calculating the forces, stresses, and logistical requirements involved in various pukao placement methods. These simulations help identify which theories are physically plausible and which face insurmountable engineering obstacles. Experimental archaeology continues to play a crucial role, with researchers building full-scale replicas to test construction theories under realistic conditions. These experiments have demonstrated both the possibilities and limitations of ancient construction techniques. Microscopic analysis of tool marks on pukao surfaces has provided information about carving techniques and the tools used in their construction. This evidence helps reconstruct the manufacturing process and the skill levels required for successful completion. Chemical analysis of red scoria has revealed variations in composition that might affect the durability and weathering characteristics of different pukao. Understanding these variations helps explain why some crowns have survived better than others over the centuries. Despite these advances, significant questions remain about the engineering methods used to create and position these remarkable monuments. Today, the pukao face unprecedented challenges that threaten both their physical preservation and our ability to study them. Climate change is accelerating weathering processes that affect the soft red scoria, causing surface deterioration and structural weakening that could lead to collapse. Many pukao have already fallen from their moai over the centuries, often breaking into fragments that are scattered around monument sites. Each collapse represents an irreversible loss of information about ancient engineering and construction techniques. Seismic activity poses ongoing risks to the remaining intact pukao moai combinations. Easter Island, lies in a geologically active region where earthquakes could topple these massive but delicately balanced monuments at any time. Tourism pressure creates both opportunities and challenges for Pukao preservation. Increased visitor interest provides funding for conservation efforts, but also increases the risk of damage from foot traffic and unauthorized climbing. Conservation efforts focus on stabilizing existing Pukao while documenting their current condition through detailed photography and three-dimensional scanning. These records ensure that detailed information will survive even if physical monuments are lost. The question of whether to attempt restoration of fallen Pukao presents complex technical and ethical challenges. Reconstructing these massive assemblies would provide valuable insights into ancient engineering, but could also cause damage to both Moai and Pukao if attempted incorrectly. International collaboration between museums, universities, and conservation organizations provides expertise and resources for Pukao preservation, but coordination across multiple institutions and countries presents ongoing logistical challenges. The Rapa Nui community plays an increasingly important role in decisions about Pukao conservation and research, bringing indigenous perspectives and traditional knowledge to complement scientific approaches. Standing once again before these remarkable monuments, watching the interplay of light and shadow across red scoria and gray basalt, the mystery deepens rather than resolves. How did a Stone Age civilization accomplish engineering feats that challenge modern understanding? What knowledge, techniques, or innovations allowed them to achieve such extraordinary precision in their monumental construction? The Pukao represent more than just impressive engineering accomplishments. They embody the human drive to create, to build, to leave lasting monuments that transcend individual lifespans and speak across centuries to future generations. They demonstrate that our ancestors were capable of achievements that continue to inspire wonder and respect. In their balanced perfection, these red crowns challenge assumptions about the relationship between technology and capability, reminding us that human ingenuity and determination can overcome seemingly insurmountable obstacles. They stand as testament to knowledge systems and engineering traditions that we are still working to understand. Perhaps most remarkably, they represent the culmination of a unique cultural tradition that developed in complete isolation, proving that human achievement knows no boundaries of time, place, or available technology. The Rapa Nui engineers who created these marvels left behind monuments that continue to challenge and inspire us centuries later. The Red Hat Enigma ensures that Easter Island will continue to surprise and puzzle researchers who seek to understand the full scope of human achievement. In their silent testimony to ancient engineering skill, the Pukao remind us that there are still profound mysteries waiting to be solved, techniques waiting to be rediscovered, and achievements waiting to be properly appreciated. What engineering secrets do you think these ancient builders possessed? Could lost techniques explain the precision of Pukao placement, or do these red crowns represent achievements that we still haven't fully understood? Share your theories about this ancient engineering mystery in the comments below, and subscribe to explore more puzzles that challenge our understanding of human capability and achievement. The Phantom Civilization. Imagine walking through the abandoned ruins of a once great city, its empty streets echoing with the silence of vanished multitudes. Around you stand nearly 1,000 towering stone monuments, testament to a civilization that once commanded thousands of workers, master craftsmen, and sophisticated engineers. Yet as you survey this monumental landscape, a chilling realization settles over you. Where are all the people? The archaeological evidence speaks of a thriving society that may have numbered 15,000 souls or more. Yet when the first Europeans arrived on Easter Island in 1722, they found only 2,000 to 3,000 inhabitants struggling to survive on a desolate, nearly treeless landscape. Somewhere in the centuries before outside contact, An entire civilization had simply vanished, leaving behind only their silent stone guardians and one of archaeology's most haunting mysteries. This is the riddle of Easter Island's phantom civilization, a lost society whose disappearance represents one of the most dramatic population collapses in human history, yet occurred in complete isolation from the outside world that might have recorded its fate. To understand the magnitude of this mystery, we must first reconstruct the golden age of Rapa Nui civilization, when Easter Island supported one of the most remarkable societies in the Pacific. Archaeological evidence suggests that Polynesian voyagers first reached the island sometime between 800 and 1200 years ago, establishing settlements that would grow into a complex and sophisticated culture. The early Rapa Nui found themselves in a unique environment, more isolated than any other inhabited place on Earth. Their nearest neighbors lived over 1,000 miles away, making Easter Island essentially a closed system where human society would develop according to its own internal dynamics, without outside influence or interference. This isolation fostered remarkable cultural achievements. The Rapa Nui developed their own unique artistic traditions, creating the iconic moai statues that would become synonymous with their civilization. They invented rongo-rongo, apparently the only indigenous writing system in all of Oceania. They built sophisticated ceremonial platforms and developed complex religious and social systems that governed their society for centuries. The island they inhabited was radically different from the barren landscape that greeted European explorers. Pollen studies and archaeological evidence reveal that Easter Island was once heavily forested, covered with towering palm trees that provided timber for construction, canoe building, and daily life. The fertile volcanic soil supported extensive agricultural systems that fed a growing population through sophisticated farming techniques. At its peak, this civilization may have supported 15,000 people or more, making it one of the most densely populated places in the Pacific. Such a population would have required remarkable organizational skills, efficient resource management, and complex social systems to maintain stability and prosperity on such a small island. The evidence for this population peak comes from multiple sources. Archaeological surveys have identified hundreds of house foundations, agricultural terraces, and other settlement remains scattered across the island. The sheer number of moai statues suggests a society with sufficient surplus labor and resources to dedicate enormous effort to monumental construction. The complexity of ceremonial sites and the sophistication of material culture all point to a large, well-organized population. But something went catastrophically wrong. By the time Dutch explorer Jacob Roggeveen arrived on Easter Sunday, 1722, he found an island that seemed to be dying. The once mighty forests had vanished, leaving behind a treeless grassland dotted with the remnants of a former civilization. The population had crashed to perhaps 2,000 or 3,000 people, struggling to survive in an environment that could no longer support the complexity of their ancestors' achievements. The mystery deepened with each subsequent European visit. Captain James Cook arrived in 1774 and found the island in an even more desolate state. Many moai had been toppled from their platforms, suggesting internal conflict and social breakdown. The sophisticated material culture of earlier times had largely disappeared, replaced by a simpler way of life focused on basic survival. The first comprehensive archaeological investigations began in the 20th century, when researchers started to piece together the story of what had happened to Easter Island's vanished civilization. Excavations revealed layers of cultural deposits that told a story of gradual decline over several centuries. The most striking discovery was the evidence of environmental transformation. Core samples from the island's crater lakes revealed pollen sequences that documented the complete disappearance of the native forest ecosystem. Where once stood towering palms and other trees, only grasses and shrubs remained. The timing of this deforestation coincided closely with the period of population decline. Archaeological evidence also revealed signs of social stress and conflict during the island's final centuries. Many moai were deliberately toppled, their faces often broken off in what appeared to be systematic destruction. Defensive structures and fortified caves suggested that the peaceful society that had built the monuments had descended into warfare and violence. The discovery of human remains showing evidence of violence and possible cannibalism added another dark chapter to the story. While controversial and disputed, some researchers argue that the collapsed civilization had descended into desperate measures as resources became scarce and social order broke down. But what could have caused such a complete societal collapse? Researchers have proposed several theories to explain the disappearance of Easter Island's phantom civilization. The most widely accepted explanation focuses on environmental degradation and resource depletion. According to this theory, the growing Rapa Nui population gradually consumed the island's natural resources faster than they could regenerate, leading to ecological collapse and civilizational breakdown. The deforestation of Easter Island represents the most dramatic aspect of this environmental catastrophe. The island's palm forests were slowly cleared for agriculture, construction, and monument transport, while introduced rats consumed palm seeds and prevented forest regeneration. Without trees, the island lost its ability to retain soil and water, leading to agricultural decline and erosion. This ecological collapse would have had cascading effects throughout Rapa Nui society. Without timber, people could no longer build large canoes for fishing or potential escape. Without forest cover, agricultural productivity declined as soils became depleted and erosion increased. The carrying capacity of the island dropped precipitously, forcing the population to contract to levels that the degraded environment could support. This theory presents Easter Island as a cautionary tale about the dangers of unsustainable resource use, a society that consumed its environment and paid the ultimate price for ecological short-sightedness. The collapse serves as a warning about the fragility of isolated ecosystems and the consequences of exceeding environmental limits. However, some researchers argue that environmental factors alone cannot explain the completeness and rapidity of the population collapse. Alternative theories propose additional catastrophic events that accelerated the decline beyond what environmental degradation alone could have caused. Climate change represents a second major theory for the civilization's disappearance. Paleoclimate studies suggest that Easter Island experienced significant climate fluctuations during the medieval period, including prolonged droughts that could have devastated agricultural systems and reduced the island's ability to support large populations. The medieval warm period, followed by the Little Ice Age, brought changing weather patterns to the Pacific that could have disrupted the monsoon cycles and ocean currents that Easter Island's agriculture and marine resources depended upon. Extended droughts could have pushed an already stressed society beyond its ability to adapt and survive. Climate change could also explain the timing of the collapse, which appears to have accelerated during periods of documented climate instability. If environmental degradation had already weakened Rapa Nui society, climate shocks could have delivered the final blow that triggered complete societal breakdown. Volcanic activity presents another possible factor in the civilization's demise. Easter Island sits atop 3 major volcanic craters, and periodic eruptions over the centuries could have caused temporary or permanent damage to agricultural systems and human settlements. A particularly large volcanic eruption could potentially have buried agricultural areas under ash, contaminated water sources, or created other environmental disasters that exceeded the society's ability to recover. While no evidence exists for catastrophic eruptions during the relevant time period, smaller volcanic events could have contributed to environmental stress. Disease represents a fourth possible factor, though one that is difficult to prove archaeologically. Isolated populations are particularly vulnerable to epidemic diseases, and the introduction of new pathogens through contact with migrating animals, plants, or even occasional human visitors could have devastated a population with no previous exposure. Some researchers have speculated that diseases could have arrived through contact with other Polynesian islands, though the extreme isolation of Easter Island makes such contact unlikely. Alternatively, diseases could have emerged from local sources or been introduced through environmental changes that brought people into contact with new pathogens. More speculative theories propose sudden catastrophic events that could explain the rapidity and completeness of the population collapse. Tsunami waves generated by distant earthquakes or volcanic eruptions could have devastated coastal settlements and agricultural systems. Massive storms or typhoons could have caused widespread destruction that exceeded the society's ability to recover. Some researchers have even proposed astronomical events, such as meteor impacts or volcanic eruptions on nearby islands, that could have created climate disruptions or direct physical damage to Easter Island. While such events are theoretically possible, no geological evidence supports these dramatic scenarios. Modern scientific investigation has brought new tools and methodologies to bear on the mystery of Easter Island's vanished civilization. Paleoenvironmental reconstruction using pollen analysis, sediment cores, and other techniques has provided detailed pictures of how the island's environment changed over time. Radiocarbon dating of archaeological sites has established more precise timelines for the population decline and associated cultural changes. These studies have revealed that the collapse occurred over several centuries rather than as a single catastrophic event, suggesting complex interactions between multiple factors rather than a simple cause and effect relationship. Genetic analysis of modern Rapa Nui descendants has provided insights into population bottlenecks and demographic changes that occurred during the collapse period. These studies suggest that the population may have declined even more dramatically than previously thought, possibly falling to just a few hundred individuals at its lowest point. Computer modeling of population dynamics and environmental systems has tested various collapse scenarios under different assumptions about resource availability, environmental change, and social organization. These models help researchers understand which combinations of factors could produce the observed patterns of decline. Archaeological surveys using remote sensing and ground-penetrating radar have revealed previously unknown settlement patterns and site distributions that provide new insights into how the population was organized and how it changed over time. These technologies allow researchers to study large areas without destructive excavation. Ethnobotanical studies of surviving plant species and agricultural systems provide information about traditional resource management practices and how they might have contributed to or mitigated environmental degradation. Understanding indigenous knowledge systems helps researchers evaluate different theories about the collapse. Despite these advances, the mystery of Easter Island's phantom civilization remains unsolved. The evidence suggests a complex interaction of environmental, social, and possibly climatic factors that combine to produce one of history's most dramatic population collapses. Today, the lessons of Easter Island's vanished civilization have taken on new urgency as humanity faces its own global environmental challenges. Climate change, deforestation, resource depletion, and population pressure present challenges that echo the problems that may have destroyed Rapa Nui society. The island itself faces ongoing threats that could destroy remaining evidence of its lost civilization. Climate change is accelerating erosion and environmental degradation that threatens archaeological sites. Rising sea levels could inundate coastal areas where important settlements once stood. Tourism development provides economic opportunities for the modern Rapa Nui population, but also creates pressures that could damage archaeological remains. Balancing preservation needs with economic development presents ongoing challenges for island management. The small modern population of Easter Island, numbering only about 6,000 people, struggles to maintain its cultural identity while adapting to globalization and modern economic pressures. The lessons of their ancestors' collapse provide both warnings and wisdom for navigating contemporary challenges. International scientific collaboration continues to investigate the mysteries of Easter Island's past, but research must be conducted in partnership with the Rapa Nui community and with respect for their cultural values and traditional knowledge. Indigenous perspectives on the collapse may provide insights that purely scientific approaches cannot access. Conservation efforts focus on protecting remaining archaeological sites and environmental resources while supporting sustainable development that can provide for the island's current population without repeating mistakes of the past. Standing among the silent moai, gazing across the windswept grasslands that once supported a thriving civilization, the magnitude of what was lost becomes overwhelming. Somewhere in these empty spaces, 15,000 people once lived, worked, loved, and built one of the Pacific's most remarkable societies. Their disappearance represents not just demographic change, but the complete vanishing of entire ways of life, knowledge systems, and cultural achievements. The phantom civilization of Easter Island serves as a powerful reminder of the fragility of human societies and their dependence on environmental stability. It challenges us to consider how quickly complexity can give way to collapse, how rapidly achievement can turn to abandonment. Yet the mystery also testifies to human resilience and adaptability. Despite the catastrophic population decline, Rapa Nui culture survived. The modern descendants of Easter Island's ancient civilization continue to maintain their identity and traditions while facing new challenges in a changing world. Perhaps the greatest lesson of Easter Island's vanished multitudes lies not in the collapse itself, but in what it teaches us about the delicate balance between human ambition and environmental limits. The phantom civilization reminds us that even the most isolated societies are connected to larger systems of climate, ecology, and sustainability. In their silent testimony, the abandoned monuments of Easter Island pose questions that extend far beyond archaeology and anthropology. They challenge us to consider our own society's relationship with the environment and the sustainability of our own civilizational achievements. What do you think caused the disappearance of Easter Island's phantom civilization? Could environmental collapse alone explain such a dramatic population decline, or did other catastrophic factors contribute to this ancient mystery? Share your theories about one of history's most haunting vanishings in the comments below, and subscribe to explore more mysteries that challenge our understanding of human society and environmental change. The quarry's last secret. Imagine walking into an ancient workshop where time itself seems to have stopped. Around you, scattered across the slopes of a volcanic crater, nearly 400 stone giants stand in various stages of completion, some towering 30 feet into the Pacific sky, others emerging only partially from solid bedrock, as if the very earth is giving birth to them. Stone tools lie exactly where they were dropped, their edges still sharp enough to cut after centuries of abandonment. Half-finished statues remain frozen in the act of creation, their faces barely roughed out from volcanic rock, waiting for carvers who will never return to complete their features. You are standing in Rano Raraku, Easter Island's primary moai quarry, a place that appears frozen at the precise moment when an entire civilization simply walked away from their greatest artistic undertaking, leaving behind one of archaeology's most haunting mysteries. This is the enigma of the quarry's last secret, a site that preserves the final moments of Easter Island's monumental age, yet refuses to reveal why the master sculptors of Rapa Nui abandoned their life's work and never looked back. To understand the mystery of Rano Raraku's abandonment, we must first appreciate the extraordinary role this volcanic crater played in Rapa Nui civilization. For over 500 years, this single location served as the beating heart of Easter Island's artistic and spiritual life, the source of nearly every moai statue that would eventually stand guard across the island's ceremonial landscape. Rano Raraku was more than just a quarry. It was a sacred space where spiritual beliefs, artistic vision, and technical mastery converged to create one of humanity's most remarkable sculptural traditions. The volcanic tuff found here possessed unique properties that made it ideal for carving, soft enough to work with stone tools, yet durable enough to withstand centuries of Pacific weather. The quarry operated as a sophisticated industrial complex, with different areas designated for various stages of production. Master sculptors would select promising sections of bedrock and begin the painstaking process of roughing out a statue's basic form. Teams of apprentices and laborers would assist in the heavy work of removing waste stone and shaping the emerging figure. Specialized craftsmen would add fine details and surface finishes that transformed raw volcanic rock into powerful spiritual guardians. The scale of this operation was extraordinary. Archaeological surveys have identified nearly 400 moai in various stages of completion scattered across the crater's interior and exterior slopes. These range from barely begun roughouts that show only the faintest suggestion of human form to completed masterpieces that rival any sculpture produced anywhere in the ancient world. The organization required for such an undertaking suggests a highly structured society with sophisticated systems of labor management, resource allocation, and technical training. Master carvers would have passed their knowledge through generations of apprentices, creating artistic lineages that maintained consistent standards and techniques across centuries of production. The quarry also served as a testing ground for artistic innovation and experimentation. Many of the moai found at Rano Raraku display unique features not seen on statues elsewhere on the island, suggesting that sculptors used the quarry as a place to develop new ideas and refine their techniques before applying them to commissioned works. The spiritual significance of Rano Raraku cannot be overstated. This was not merely an industrial site, but a sacred space where the ancestors took physical form through the skill of human hands. The process of carving moai was itself a religious act, transforming stone into spiritual beings who would serve as intermediaries between the world of the living and the realm of the dead. Yet despite centuries of continuous operation and the obvious importance of this site to Rapa Nui culture, something caused the complete abandonment of Rano Raraku sometime between the 15th and 17th centuries. The timing remains uncertain, but the evidence is unmistakable. Work stopped abruptly, tools were abandoned, and the sculptors never returned. The first European visitors to Easter Island in 1722 noted the presence of numerous moai around Rano Raraku, but did not immediately recognize the site as an active quarry. The volcanic crater appeared to be simply another location where statues had been erected, though visitors noted that many seemed to be buried up to their necks in accumulated soil. It was not until the late 19th century that systematic archaeological investigation began to reveal the true nature of Rano Raraku. Early researchers discovered that what appeared to be moai heads protruding from grassy slopes were actually complete statues whose bodies had been buried by centuries of erosion and sedimentation. Excavations throughout the 20th century gradually revealed the full scope of the quarry complex. Archaeologists uncovered evidence of extensive stoneworking areas, tool caches, and worker settlements that had supported the monumental sculpture industry for centuries. They also made a startling discovery. Many moai had been abandoned at various stages of completion, some so unfinished that they remained attached to the bedrock from which they were being carved. The most dramatic finds were the tools themselves, hundreds of basalt picks and obsidian scrapers scattered around unfinished statues, as if workers had simply put them down one day and walked away. Many tools showed clear evidence of recent use, with fresh edge damage and stone chips nearby that suggested work had stopped suddenly rather than being gradually wound down. Dating of organic materials found in association with the abandoned tools suggested that work at Rano Raraku had ceased sometime during the 15th to 17th centuries, coinciding with broader patterns of cultural change and population decline across Easter Island. However, the abrupt nature of the abandonment suggested that something more specific than gradual social change had caused the quarry's closure. Archaeological evidence also revealed that the quarry had not been gradually abandoned, but had been functioning at full capacity right up until the moment work stopped. Partially completed statues showed evidence of recent carving activity, with fresh tool marks and unweathered stone surfaces that indicated active work had been underway when the site was abandoned. But what could have caused such a complete and sudden abandonment of Easter Island's most important cultural and economic center? Researchers have proposed several theories to explain why the sculptors of Rano Raraku laid down their tools and never returned. The most straightforward explanation focuses on resource depletion and environmental collapse. As Easter Island's population grew and forests disappeared, the island's carrying capacity declined dramatically. The elaborate social systems that had supported monumental sculpture for centuries may have become unsustainable as communities struggled with basic survival needs. In this scenario, the quarry's abandonment represents a rational response to changing priorities. As food became scarce and environmental degradation accelerated, communities could no longer afford to support large numbers of specialized craftsmen engaged in non-essential activities. The labor and resources that had once been dedicated to moai production were redirected toward agriculture and other survival-focused activities. This theory explains the abrupt nature of the abandonment by suggesting that environmental collapse reached a critical threshold that forced immediate changes in social organization. Once communities could no longer support the complex logistics of quarry operations, work would have stopped quickly and completely. The presence of abandoned tools and unfinished statues supports this interpretation, as sculptors would have had little reason to carefully store equipment and materials if they knew they would not be returning. The sudden shift from monument building to survival mode would have made such considerations irrelevant. A second theory proposes that social and political upheaval caused the quarry's abandonment. Archaeological evidence from Easter Island's later periods shows signs of warfare, social conflict, and the breakdown of traditional authority systems. These changes could have disrupted the social organization necessary for large-scale sculpture production. If the quarry was controlled by specific clans or social groups, conflicts between these groups could have led to the site's abandonment. Warfare or political instability might have made it impossible to maintain the cooperation and coordination necessary for continued sculpture production. The deliberate toppling of completed moai throughout Easter Island during this period suggests that traditional authority systems were being challenged or overthrown. If the quarry was associated with discredited leadership or religious practices, its abandonment might have been part of broader social and cultural changes. This theory could explain why tools and materials were simply abandoned, rather than being salvaged or redistributed. If the quarry was associated with defeated political factions or discredited religious practices, returning to collect valuable tools might have been dangerous or culturally prohibited. Religious and spiritual factors present a third possible explanation for the quarry's abandonment. Changes in spiritual beliefs or religious practices could have made moai production unnecessary or even forbidden, leading to the site's immediate closure. If traditional ancestor worship was replaced by new religious systems, the production of moai might have become spiritually meaningless or actively opposed by new religious authorities. The adoption of new beliefs could explain both the abrupt cessation of work and the lack of any attempt to resume production later. Some researchers have suggested that environmental stress and social upheaval led to changes in religious worldview that made traditional monument building seem futile or inappropriate. If the moai were believed to have failed in their protective function, communities might have abandoned their production in favor of different spiritual practices. The preservation of the quarry in its abandoned state might reflect taboo or sacred restrictions that prevented people from disturbing the site after work ceased. Such spiritual prohibitions could explain why valuable tools and materials were left untouched for centuries. More dramatic theories propose catastrophic events that could have caused immediate abandonment of the quarry. Volcanic eruptions, earthquakes, tsunamis, or other natural disasters might have made the site dangerous or inaccessible, forcing workers to flee and never return. While Easter Island is volcanically active, geological evidence for major eruptions during the relevant time period is limited. However, smaller volcanic events or seismic activity could have been interpreted as spiritual warnings or omens that made continued work at the quarry seem dangerous or inappropriate. Epidemic disease represents another potential catastrophic factor. If disease struck the specialized craftsmen who operated the quarry, work could have stopped abruptly due to the loss of essential skills and knowledge. The highly specialized nature of moai carving meant that the loss of key individuals could have made continued production impossible. Climate-related disasters, such as droughts, storms, or temperature changes, could also have forced communities to abandon long-term projects in favor of immediate survival needs. Such events might not leave clear archaeological traces, but could explain the sudden prioritization of basic subsistence over monumental construction. Modern scientific investigation has brought new tools and techniques to bear on the mystery of Rano Raraku's abandonment. Ground-penetrating radar surveys have revealed the full extent of the quarry complex, including buried work areas and stoneworking sites that were not visible on the surface. Radiocarbon dating of organic materials found in association with abandoned tools has provided more precise estimates of when work ceased at the quarry. These studies suggest that abandonment occurred during a relatively brief period, supporting theories of sudden rather than gradual closure. Microscopic analysis of tool edges and stone surfaces has provided insights into the sequence of abandonment, revealing which areas were abandoned first and how long different sections of the quarry remained active. This evidence helps researchers understand the process by which work wound down across the site. Computer modeling of quarry operations has tested various abandonment scenarios, calculating the labor requirements and resource needs for different phases of production. These models help identify which factors would have been most likely to force sudden cessation of work. Experimental archaeology has recreated ancient carving techniques and tool use, providing insights into the skills and knowledge that would have been lost when the quarry was abandoned. These experiments help researchers understand both the sophistication of the original carving tradition and the challenges that would have been involved in resuming work after any interruption. Environmental reconstruction using pollen analysis and other techniques has provided detailed pictures of ecological conditions around the time of the quarry's abandonment. This evidence helps evaluate theories about environmental collapse and resource depletion as factors in the site's closure. Despite these advances, the mystery of why Rano Raraku was abandoned remains unsolved. The evidence suggests a complex interaction of environmental, social, and cultural factors that combine to end one of the world's most remarkable artistic traditions. Today, Rano Raraku faces new challenges that threaten both the preservation of its archaeological remains and our ability to understand its mysteries. Climate change is accelerating erosion and weathering processes that damage both completed moai and unfinished sculptures still attached to bedrock. Tourism pressure creates both opportunities and threats for the quarry site. Increased visitor interest provides funding for conservation efforts, but also increases the risk of damage from foot traffic and unauthorized access to sensitive areas. The buried moai at Rano Raraku present particular conservation challenges. Excavation exposes previously protected surfaces to weathering and environmental damage, but leaving them buried makes study and documentation difficult. Each decision about which statues to excavate and how to protect them carries long-term consequences for preservation. The tools and other artifacts scattered around the quarry are extremely vulnerable to both environmental damage and human disturbance. Many have already been lost to erosion, tourism impact, or unauthorized collection, representing irreversible losses of information about ancient carving techniques. International conservation efforts focus on stabilizing the site while minimizing further damage from environmental and human factors. Advanced documentation techniques create detailed records of the quarry's current condition for future researchers. The Rapa Nui community plays an increasingly important role in decisions about the quarry's management and conservation. Traditional knowledge about the site's cultural significance provides essential context for understanding both its historical importance and its contemporary meaning. Research priorities must balance the desire to understand the quarry's mysteries with the need to protect its irreplaceable archaeological remains for future generations. Each investigation potentially provides new insights, but also risks damaging the very evidence it seeks to understand. Standing once again among the abandoned giants of Rano Raraku, surrounded by the tools and unfinished dreams of ancient craftsmen, the silence seems to whisper of secrets that may never be fully revealed. What combination of factors could have been powerful enough to make an entire civilization walk away from their greatest artistic achievement and never look back? The quarry's last secret lies not just in the unfinished statues and abandoned tools, but in what their abandonment tells us about the fragility of human achievement and the unpredictability of historical change. Here, at the very moment when Rapa Nui sculpture was reaching its highest levels of sophistication and production, everything stopped. Perhaps the greatest mystery is not why the quarry was abandoned, but how such a complete break with tradition was possible. The moai represented not just artistic achievement, but spiritual belief, cultural identity, and ancestral connection spanning many generations. To abandon their creation suggests changes so profound that they challenge the very foundations of Rapa Nui society. The frozen moment preserved at Rano Raraku serves as a powerful reminder that even the most enduring human traditions can end without warning, that the projects that define civilizations can be abandoned in an instant when circumstances change beyond our ability to adapt or control. In their silent testimony, the unfinished giants of Rano Raraku pose questions that extend far beyond archaeology and art history. They challenge us to consider the relationship between cultural continuity and historical change, between human ambition and environmental reality, between the persistence of tradition and the inevitability of transformation. The quarry's last secret ensures that Easter Island will continue to challenge our understanding of how civilizations rise, flourish, and sometimes simply walk away from their greatest achievements, leaving behind only silent stone witnesses to dreams that were never completed. What do you think caused the master sculptors of Rano Raraku to abandon their life's work so completely and suddenly? Could environmental collapse alone explain such a dramatic break with tradition, or did other factors force this ancient civilization to walk away from their spiritual and artistic center? Share your theories about this haunting archaeological mystery in the comments below, and subscribe to explore more ancient puzzles that challenge our understanding of human achievement and historical change. The Stone Platform Mystery. Imagine standing at the edge of Easter Island, where volcanic cliffs meet the endless Pacific, watching waves crash against a stone wall that has withstood every assault the ocean could deliver for over 500 years. Before you rises a massive ceremonial platform, its precisely fitted basalt blocks, forming a foundation so perfectly engineered that no mortar was needed to bind them together. Upon this ancient stage stand 7 towering moai statues, their combined weight exceeding 100 tons, yet the platform beneath them remains as solid and level as the day it was completed. You run your hand along joints so tight that not even a knife blade can slip between the stones, marveling at construction techniques that modern engineers struggle to replicate despite all our advanced tools and machinery. This is the mystery of the Ahu, Easter Island's extraordinary stone platforms, massive foundations that represent some of the most sophisticated stonework ever created by a prehistoric civilization, yet were built using methods that remain largely unknown to contemporary science. To understand the magnitude of the Ahu mystery, we must first appreciate the central role these platforms played in Rapa Nui society and the extraordinary engineering challenges their construction presented. The Ahu were far more than simple foundations for Moai statues. They were sacred spaces where the living world intersected with the realm of the ancestors. Carefully designed ceremonial complexes that served as the spiritual and social centers of Rapa Nui communities. Over 300 Ahu have been identified across Easter Island, ranging from simple family shrines to massive ceremonial complexes that rank among the most impressive stone constructions in the Pacific. The largest of these platforms stretch over 400 feet in length and rise more than 12 feet above ground level, incorporating thousands of tons of precisely shaped volcanic stone. The construction of these platforms required extraordinary organizational skills and technical knowledge. Each Ahu was built to accommodate specific numbers and arrangements of Moai statues, with platforms custom designed to support the weight and dimensions of their intended monuments. This level of precision planning suggests sophisticated understanding of structural engineering principles that seem far beyond what we might expect from a Stone Age civilization. The materials used in Ahu construction were carefully selected for their specific properties and symbolic significance. Most platforms were built primarily from basalt, a hard volcanic rock quarried from sites around the island and transported considerable distances to construction locations. The builders also incorporated red scoria, coral, and other materials to create complex, multicolored designs that enhanced both the structural and aesthetic qualities of their monuments. But perhaps most remarkably, all of this was accomplished without the use of mortar or any binding agent to hold the stones together. The massive blocks were shaped and fitted so precisely that they have remained stable for centuries, despite constant exposure to earthquakes, tsunamis, storms, and other natural forces that have toppled modern structures built with contemporary techniques. The spiritual significance of the Ahu cannot be overstated. These platforms served as the interface between the physical and spiritual worlds, places where the living could communicate with their deified ancestors and seek their protection and guidance. The precise orientation and alignment of many Ahu suggests they were designed according to complex astronomical and ceremonial principles that governed Rapa Nui religious practices. The variety of Ahu designs reflects the diverse needs and resources of different Rapa Nui communities. Smaller platforms might support just one or two moai for a single extended family, while the largest ceremonial complexes served entire clans or districts and could accommodate 15 or more statues arranged in precise formations. The mystery of Ahu construction techniques first captured serious scientific attention in the 20th century, when archaeologists began systematic studies of Easter Island's monumental architecture. Early researchers were immediately struck by the sophistication of the stonework and the apparent impossibility of achieving such precision without advanced tools or machinery. The first detailed archaeological investigations of Ahu construction began in the 1950s, when Norwegian explorer Thor Heyerdahl conducted excavations at several major platform sites. Heyerdahl's team made remarkable discoveries that revolutionized understanding of Rapa Nui engineering capabilities. Excavations revealed that many Ahu were built in multiple phases over long periods, with earlier simple platforms gradually expanded and refined into the complex structures visible today. This suggested that Ahu construction represented an evolving tradition that became increasingly sophisticated over time as builders developed new techniques and accumulated experience. Perhaps most significantly, archaeological investigation revealed the true scale and complexity of Ahu construction. What appeared from the surface to be relatively simple stone platforms were actually elaborate multi-story structures with complex internal architecture, drainage systems, and foundation works that extended deep below ground level. Many ahu were found to incorporate earlier structures or natural rock formations into their designs, suggesting that builders possessed sophisticated understanding of geology and structural engineering that allowed them to work with existing landscape features rather than simply imposing artificial constructions upon them. The discovery of stoneworking tools and evidence of quarrying operations provided insights into the techniques used to shape and prepare the massive blocks used in ahu construction. However, these findings also deepened the mystery by demonstrating that the precision achieved in ahu construction far exceeded what seemed possible with the available stoneworking technology. Subsequent archaeological investigations have revealed additional complexities in ahu construction that continue to challenge our understanding of ancient engineering capabilities. Some platforms incorporate astronomical alignments that required precise surveying and calculation. Others show evidence of sophisticated water management systems that controlled runoff and prevented erosion damage. But how did the Rapa Nui achieve such extraordinary precision in their stone construction? Researchers have proposed several theories to explain the engineering techniques that made ahu construction possible. The most conventional explanation focuses on sophisticated stone shaping and fitting techniques that allowed builders to achieve precise joints without modern tools or measuring instruments. According to this theory, master masons developed methods for shaping stones that could be fitted together with extraordinary accuracy using only stone tools and careful craftsmanship. This approach would have required generations of accumulated knowledge and skill development, with master builders passing their techniques through apprenticeship systems that maintained high standards of workmanship over centuries of construction activity. The gradual evolution of ahu designs supports this interpretation by suggesting a learning process that refined techniques over time. Experimental archaeology has demonstrated that skilled craftsmen can indeed achieve remarkable precision using traditional stoneworking tools when sufficient time and care are invested in the process. Modern stonemasons working with replica tools have successfully created joints almost as tight as those found in ancient ahu, though not with the same efficiency or speed that would have been required for large-scale construction projects. This theory also explains the variation in construction quality observed among different ahu, with the most prestigious ceremonial sites receiving the highest levels of craftsmanship, while smaller family platforms were built using simpler techniques that required less specialized skill. However, the sheer scale and uniformity of precision achieved across hundreds of ahu sites suggests construction capabilities that seem to exceed what could be accomplished through craftsmanship alone, even at the highest levels of skill development. A second theory proposes the use of sophisticated measuring and planning systems that allowed builders to achieve consistent precision across large construction projects. Ancient builders might have developed standardized measurement units, geometric principles, and construction templates that ensured uniform quality even when work was distributed among multiple teams and work sites. Evidence for systematic planning comes from the consistent proportions and design elements found across different ahu, suggesting the use of standardized architectural principles rather than improvised construction methods. Some researchers have identified mathematical relationships in ahu dimensions that suggest sophisticated understanding of geometric principles. The astronomical alignments found in many ahu provide additional evidence for systematic planning and precise surveying techniques. Achieving accurate celestial alignments requires careful measurement and calculation that suggests much more sophisticated planning capabilities than simple trial and error construction methods. This theory could explain how the Rapa Nui achieved consistent quality across such a large number of construction projects, while maintaining the flexibility to adapt designs to different sites and requirements. Standardized systems would have allowed coordination of large-scale construction projects while ensuring that all work met established quality standards. A third theory suggests the use of advanced mechanical techniques that provided greater precision and efficiency than simple hand tools and manual labor. Ancient builders might have developed sophisticated leverage systems, measuring devices, or construction aids that have not survived in the archaeological record. Some researchers have proposed that the Rapa Nui developed advanced surveying techniques using astronomical observations and geometric principles that allowed precise measurement and alignment of construction elements. Such methods could explain the extraordinary accuracy achieved in Ahu construction without requiring tools or machinery that would leave obvious archaeological evidence. The possibility of lost technologies represents one of the most intriguing aspects of the Ahu mystery. Could the Rapa Nui have developed engineering solutions that were subsequently lost when their civilization declined? Might environmental and social pressures have eliminated knowledge systems that had taken generations to develop? More speculative theories propose that Ahu construction incorporated techniques or knowledge systems that differed fundamentally from conventional approaches to stone construction. Some researchers have suggested that the builders possessed understanding of stone properties, geological formations, or structural principles that enabled them to work with natural forces rather than simply overcoming them through brute force engineering. The remarkable seismic stability of many Ahu platforms, which have survived major earthquakes that damaged modern structures, suggests construction techniques that were specifically adapted to the geological conditions of Easter Island. This level of environmental adaptation requires sophisticated understanding of local conditions and engineering principles. Could the Rapa Nui have developed construction techniques that worked with the natural properties of volcanic stone and geological formations in ways that we have not yet fully understood? Might their apparent mastery of dry stone construction reflect knowledge systems that approached engineering problems from fundamentally different perspectives than contemporary methods? Modern scientific investigation has brought advanced tools and techniques to bear on the Ahu mystery, providing new insights into construction methods while deepening appreciation for the sophistication of ancient engineering. Three-dimensional laser scanning has created detailed digital models of Ahu platforms that allow precise analysis of construction techniques, stone fitting methods, and structural characteristics. These scans reveal previously unnoticed details about jointing techniques and construction sequences that provide clues about building methods. Ground-penetrating radar surveys have revealed the internal structure of Ahu platforms, showing complex foundation systems, drainage features, and construction details that are not visible from surface examination. These investigations demonstrate that Ahu construction involved much more sophisticated engineering than was apparent from external observation. Structural engineering analysis has tested the stability and load-bearing characteristics of Ahu platforms, calculating the forces and stresses involved in supporting massive moai statues while maintaining stability during earthquakes and other natural disasters. These studies have revealed design features that demonstrate remarkable understanding of structural principles. Materials science investigations have analyzed the properties of volcanic stones used in Ahu construction, providing insights into how builders selected and shaped materials to achieve optimal performance characteristics. Understanding the physical properties of construction materials helps explain how such precise fitting was achieved using available tools. Computer modeling has tested various construction scenarios and techniques, evaluating the feasibility of different approaches to stone shaping, transportation, and assembly. These simulations help identify which construction methods would have been practical given available technology and labor resources. Archaeological analysis of construction sequences has revealed the order in which different parts of Ahu platforms were built, providing insights into planning and organization methods used by ancient builders. Understanding construction sequences helps reconstruct the knowledge and skills required for successful project completion. Despite these advances, the fundamental mystery of Ahu construction techniques remains unsolved, with each new discovery revealing additional layers of sophistication and complexity. Today, the Ahu platforms face unprecedented challenges that threaten both their physical preservation and our ability to understand their construction secrets. Climate change is accelerating weathering and erosion processes that affect the volcanic stones used in tensure platform construction, potentially compromising structural integrity after centuries of stability. Rising sea levels and increased storm activity pose particular threats to coastal Ahu sites, where platforms that have withstood countless Pacific storms now face unprecedented environmental pressures. Several important Ahu have already suffered damage from extreme weather events that appear to be increasing in frequency and intensity. Seismic activity continues to present ongoing risks to Ahu stability. While these platforms have survived major earthquakes in the past, each seismic event creates cumulative stress that could eventually lead to structural failure, particularly as weathering weakens stone joints over time. Tourism pressure creates both opportunities and challenges for Ahu conservation. Increased visitor interest provides funding for preservation efforts, but also increases the risk of damage from foot traffic and unauthorized access to sensitive structural elements. Conservation efforts focus on stabilizing existing platforms while maintaining their structural integrity and historical authenticity. Advanced materials and techniques help reinforce weakened joints and provide protection against environmental damage without compromising the archaeological value of these ancient structures. Documentation projects use cutting-edge technology to create detailed records of Ahu construction techniques and structural characteristics. These efforts ensure that crucial information about ancient engineering methods will be preserved, even if physical structures are damaged or lost. The challenge of maintaining structural stability while preserving historical authenticity requires careful balance between conservation needs and archaeological integrity. Each intervention must be carefully planned to provide necessary protection without destroying evidence of original construction techniques. International collaboration brings together expertise from multiple disciplines to address the complex technical and cultural challenges involved in Ahu preservation. Engineers, archaeologists, conservators, and traditional knowledge holders work together to develop comprehensive approaches to platform conservation. Standing once again before these extraordinary stone platforms, watching waves crash against foundations that have endured every assault the Pacific could deliver for half a millennium, the magnitude of ancient achievement becomes overwhelming. How did Stone Age builders create structures that continue to challenge modern engineering understanding? The Ahu represent more than impressive construction projects. They embody the human capacity to transform vision into reality through skill, determination, and accumulated knowledge. They demonstrate that our ancestors possessed understanding and capabilities that we are still working to comprehend and appreciate. In their precise stonework and enduring stability, these platforms challenge assumptions about the relationship between technological sophistication and engineering achievement. They prove that remarkable results can be achieved through knowledge systems and construction techniques that differ fundamentally from contemporary approaches. Perhaps most remarkably, the Ahu demonstrate that ancient engineers could create structures that not only met their immediate functional needs, but also anticipated and prepared for challenges that would not emerge for centuries. Their seismic stability and environmental durability suggest planning horizons and engineering wisdom that extend far beyond the immediate demands of construction. The stone platform mystery ensures that Easter Island will continue to challenge our understanding of ancient engineering and construction capabilities. These silent foundations remind us that human achievement often transcends the limitations of available technology, that skill and knowledge can overcome seemingly insurmountable obstacles. In their enduring testimony to ancient engineering mastery, the Ahu pose questions that extend beyond archaeology and structural engineering to to fundamental issues about human capability, traditional knowledge systems, and the relationship between technology and achievement. What engineering secrets do you think enabled the Rapa Nui to achieve such extraordinary precision in their stone platform construction? Could lost knowledge systems explain techniques that modern engineers struggle to replicate? Or do these ancient foundations demonstrate capabilities that we have yet to fully understand? Share your theories about this remarkable engineering mystery in the comments below, and subscribe to explore more ancient achievements that continue to challenge our understanding of human ingenuity and technical mastery. The Ceremonial Village Riddle. Imagine standing on the rim of Rano Raraku crater as dawn breaks over Easter Island, gazing down at a cluster of ancient stone houses perched precariously on the edge of a 700-foot cliff that plunges directly into the churning Pacific Ocean. Before you lies Orongo, a ceremonial village unlike any other in the world, where once each year the most powerful men in Rapa Nui society would gather to witness a competition so dangerous that many participants never returned alive. The prize they risked everything for seems almost absurdly simple: a single seabird egg collected from rocky islets more than a mile offshore, through treacherous currents and shark-infested waters. Yet for centuries, this deadly ritual determined the supreme ruler of Easter Island and shaped the spiritual and political destiny of an entire civilization. This is the mystery of Orongo and the Tangata Manu ceremony, a competition that appears to make no rational sense, yet held such profound importance that it survived as Easter Island's most sacred tradition until the arrival of Christian missionaries in the late 19th century. To understand the enigma of Orongo, we must first appreciate the extraordinary transformation that occurred in Rapa Nui society during the 17th and 18th centuries. This was a period of profound change when the classical age of Moai construction was ending, and new forms of spiritual and political authority were emerging to replace the traditional ancestor worship that had dominated island culture for centuries. The decline of the Moai tradition left a spiritual vacuum that needed to be filled. Communities that had once channeled their energies into carving and transporting massive stone monuments now sought new ways to connect with the divine powers they believed governed their world. The dangerous environment of Easter Island, isolated in the vast Pacific with limited resources and unpredictable weather, demanded strong leadership and divine protection to ensure survival. Into this cultural transition emerged the cult of Tangata Manu, the Birdman, a religious and political system centered on the annual competition at Orongo Village. This new tradition represented a radical departure from the static ancestor worship of the Moai era, replacing permanent stone guardians with a dynamic annual ritual that tested human courage, divine favor, and leadership worthiness. The Tangata Manu ceremony was fundamentally different from earlier Rapa Nui religious practices. Where the Moai represented eternal, unchanging ancestral authority, the Birdman competition was fluid and uncertain, with leadership changing annually based on the outcome of a terrifying trial by ordeal. This shift reflected broader changes in Rapa Nui society as communities adapted to environmental challenges and resource limitations that made traditional forms of authority increasingly obsolete. Orongo village itself was purpose-built for this annual ceremony, constructed on one of the most dramatic and dangerous sites imaginable. The village consisted of 53 stone houses, built directly on the cliff edge, their thick walls and low doorways designed to withstand the fierce winds that constantly battered this exposed location. The houses were arranged to provide optimal views of the offshore islets where the competition would take place, creating an amphitheater for witnessing the sacred drama that unfolded each year. The architecture of Orongo was unlike anything else on Easter Island. The houses were built using a distinctive slab stone construction technique that created structures resembling elongated beehives with corbelled roofs designed to shed wind and rain. Each house could accommodate only a few people, suggesting that occupancy was restricted to the most elite members of Rapa Nui society and their immediate supporters. The location of Orongo was clearly chosen for its symbolic as well as practical significance. Positioned at the junction of three of Easter Island's major volcanic craters, the village occupied a liminal space between the island's different geological and spiritual zones. The dramatic cliff edge setting provided both a perfect vantage point for observing the competition and a powerful metaphor for the life and death nature of the trials that took place there. The mystery of Orongo's true purpose first intrigued European visitors in the late 19th century when they encountered the remnants of rituals that local informants described in hushed, reverent tones. Early ethnographers recorded fragments of traditions surrounding the Tangata Manu ceremony, but much of the detailed knowledge had been lost or suppressed following the arrival of Christian missionaries who viewed these practices as pagan superstitions to be eliminated. The first systematic archaeological investigation of Orongo began in the early 20th century, when researchers started to uncover the physical remains of this mysterious ceremonial complex. Excavations revealed not just the stone houses, but also extensive petroglyphic art that covered nearly every available rock surface around the village, providing crucial insights into the beliefs and practices associated with the site. The petroglyphs of Orongo represent the largest concentration of rock art on Easter Island, with over 1,700 individual carvings documented across the ceremonial complex. These images provide a visual encyclopedia of Tangata Manu beliefs, depicting birdmen figures, ceremonial objects, and spiritual symbols that help decode the meaning and significance of the rituals performed at the site. The most striking petroglyphic images show human figures with bird heads or wings, often holding eggs or ritual objects that clearly relate to the Birdman ceremony. These carvings suggest that the Tangata Manu tradition involved complex spiritual beliefs about the relationship between humans and birds, transformation between different states of being, and the divine power associated with successful completion of the dangerous egg-gathering ritual. Archaeological investigation also revealed that Orongo had been occupied and modified over several centuries, with multiple construction phases that reflected the evolution of Tangata Manu beliefs and practices. The site was not built all at once, but rather developed gradually, as the ceremony grew in importance and complexity, suggesting that the Birdman cult emerged slowly from earlier spiritual traditions, rather than appearing suddenly as a fully formed religious system. But what was the true significance of the Tangata Manu ceremony? Why would rational people risk their lives for a simple bird egg, when the island presumably had many other sources of protein and nutrients? Researchers have proposed several theories to explain the deeper meaning behind this mysterious ritual. The most straightforward interpretation suggests that the ceremony served primarily as a political mechanism for determining leadership succession in a society that had outgrown traditional forms of authority. According to this theory, the dangerous egg-gathering competition provided a way to select rulers based on demonstrated courage, divine favor, and ability to command loyalty from followers willing to risk their lives on their behalf. This political interpretation explains several puzzling aspects of the Tangata Manu tradition. The annual nature of the competition ensured that leadership remained dynamic and responsive to changing circumstances rather than becoming hereditary and potentially incompetent. The extreme danger of the ritual meant that only the most capable and motivated individuals would attempt it, creating a natural selection process for leadership qualities. The involvement of representatives, rather than direct participation by clan leaders, suggests a sophisticated political system that balanced personal risk with effective governance. Chiefs could demonstrate their worthiness to rule by inspiring others to undertake the dangerous journey on their behalf, proving their leadership capabilities without necessarily dying in the attempt. The winner of the Tangata Manu competition received not just political authority, but also significant spiritual power, becoming a sacred figure who embodied the divine favor necessary for ensuring the island's prosperity and protection. This combination of temporal and spiritual authority provided a comprehensive form of leadership that addressed both practical and religious needs of Rapa Nui society. However, the political theory struggles to explain why such an elaborate and dangerous system would be necessary when simpler forms of leadership selection were available. Many other Polynesian societies managed political succession without requiring deadly competitions, suggesting that the Tangata Manu ceremony served purposes beyond mere governance. A second theory proposes that the ceremony was fundamentally religious in nature, designed to maintain spiritual connections between the human and natural worlds that were essential for Easter Island's survival. According to this interpretation, the egg-gathering ritual represented a form of divine communication that ensured continued divine protection for the island's inhabitants. This spiritual theory finds support in the extensive religious iconography associated with Orongo and the sacred nature of the birds whose eggs were sought. Sooty terns and other seabirds that nested on the offshore islets were believed to possess supernatural powers and to serve as messengers between the human world and the realm of the gods. The timing of the ceremony, which coincided with the annual arrival of migratory seabirds, suggests synchronization with natural cycles that were crucial for the island's ecological and spiritual health. By successfully gathering the first egg of the season, the Tangata Manu winner demonstrated that the divine powers remained favorably disposed toward the island and its people. The dangerous nature of the ritual may have been essential to its spiritual effectiveness. Many religious traditions worldwide involve ordeals and sacrifices that test faith and demonstrate worthiness to receive divine favor. The life and death stakes of the egg-gathering competition could have been necessary to ensure that the ceremony carried sufficient spiritual weight to maintain its religious authority. This religious interpretation also explains the elaborate petroglyphic art and ceremonial architecture associated with Orongo, which seemed disproportionate to a simple political competition, but appropriate for one of the most important religious sites in Rapa Nui culture. A third theory suggests that the Tangata Manu ceremony served primarily as a resource management system designed to regulate access to the offshore islets and their valuable bird populations. According to this interpretation, the annual competition provided a way to control exploitation of seabird colonies that were crucial for the island's protein supplies and other resources. The eggs themselves, while symbolically important, may have represented broader access rights to the islets and their bird populations. The winner of the competition might have gained exclusive or preferential access to these resources for their clan or community, providing significant economic advantages that justified the risks involved in the ceremony. This economic theory explains why the competition continued even after traditional political structures had been disrupted by European contact and disease. If the ceremony served essential resource management functions, it would have remained important regardless of broader political changes affecting the island. The dangerous nature of the ritual could have served as a natural limitation on exploitation, ensuring that only communities with sufficient motivation and capability would attempt to access the bird colonies. This would prevent overexploitation while maintaining the ecological balance necessary for long-term sustainability. However, archaeological evidence for intensive exploitation of the offshore islets is limited, and it remains unclear whether these resources were sufficiently valuable to justify such an elaborate and dangerous access control system. More speculative theories propose that the Tangata Manu ceremony encoded sophisticated knowledge about navigation, astronomy, or other technical skills that were essential for survival on Easter Island. The complex timing and execution of the ritual might have served as a training ground for developing capabilities that were crucial for the island's long-term survival. Some researchers have suggested that the ceremony maintained knowledge of ocean navigation techniques that could be essential for contact with other islands or escape in times of crisis. The dangerous journey to the offshore islets required skills in reading currents, weather patterns, and ocean conditions that were directly applicable to longer voyages. The astronomical timing of the ceremony, which was coordinated with seasonal bird migrations and other natural cycles, might have served to maintain calendrical knowledge and seasonal planning capabilities that were essential for agriculture and resource management. These knowledge preservation theories suggest that what appeared to be a simple ritual actually served as a complex educational system that maintained crucial technical capabilities through practical application and regular practice. Modern scientific investigation has brought new tools and methodologies to bear on the Orongo mystery, providing insights into the ceremony's significance while revealing additional layers of complexity that deepen rather than resolve the puzzle. Archaeological analysis of the site has revealed evidence of intensive occupation and elaborate ritual activities that extended far beyond the simple egg-gathering competition described in ethnographic accounts. Excavations have uncovered ceremonial objects, food remains, and other materials that suggest complex religious and social activities associated with the annual gathering. Petroglyphic analysis using advanced imaging techniques has revealed previously unnoticed details in the rock art that provide new insights into Tangata Manu beliefs and practices. Digital enhancement and three-dimensional modeling of the carvings have identified symbolic patterns and relationships that were not apparent through traditional observation methods. Ethnographic research with contemporary Rapa Nui communities has recovered additional oral traditions and cultural knowledge about the ceremony that had been preserved through family traditions despite official suppression of the practices. These accounts provide valuable context for understanding the spiritual and social significance of the rituals. Environmental studies of the offshore islets have provided insights into the ecological conditions and resource availability that might have influenced the development and continuation of the ceremony. Understanding the natural environment helps evaluate theories about resource management and ecological factors in the ritual's significance. Comparative analysis with similar ceremonies from other Polynesian cultures has identified common elements and unique features that help place the Tangata Manu tradition within broader Pacific religious and political systems. These comparisons provide context for understanding how the ceremony fit into regional patterns of cultural development. Despite these advances, the fundamental mystery of why the Tangata Manu ceremony was so important to Rapa Nui society remains unsolved, with each new discovery adding complexity rather than providing definitive answers. Today, Orongo faces significant conservation challenges that threaten both the physical remains of the ceremonial village and our ability to understand its mysteries. The exposed cliff-edge location that made the site so dramatic for ancient ceremonies now makes it extremely vulnerable to environmental damage from wind, rain, and seismic activity. Climate change is accelerating erosion processes that threaten the stone structures and petroglyphic art that preserve crucial evidence about the site's significance. Rising sea levels and increased storm activity pose particular risks to this coastal location that has already survived centuries of Pacific weather extremes. Tourism pressure creates both opportunities and challenges for Orongo conservation. Visitor interest provides funding for preservation efforts, but also increases the risk of damage to fragile archaeological remains and rock art. Managing access while preserving the site's integrity requires careful balance between education and protection goals. The petroglyphic art at Orongo is particularly vulnerable to damage from both natural weathering and human impact. These carvings represent irreplaceable records of ancient beliefs and practices, but their exposed location makes them extremely difficult to protect without compromising their archaeological context. Conservation efforts focus on stabilizing the stone structures while protecting the petroglyphic art from further deterioration. Advanced documentation techniques create detailed records that preserve information even if physical remains are damaged or lost. The cultural significance of Orongo to contemporary Rapa Nui communities adds important dimensions to conservation planning. The site remains sacred to many islanders, and preservation efforts must respect ongoing cultural connections while maintaining scientific and educational access. International collaboration brings together expertise from multiple disciplines to address the complex challenges involved in preserving this unique archaeological site, while advancing understanding of its historical and cultural significance. Standing once again on the windswept cliffs of Orongo, gazing out at the offshore islets where brave souls once risked everything for reasons we may never fully understand, the mystery deepens rather than resolves. What combination of spiritual beliefs, political needs, and cultural values could have made a simple bird egg worth the ultimate sacrifice? The ceremonial village riddle challenges our assumptions about rational behavior and the motivations that drive human societies to create elaborate and dangerous rituals. It reminds us that what appears simple or irrational from our perspective may embody complex wisdom and essential functions that we have yet to comprehend. Perhaps the greatest mystery of Orongo lies not in the specific details of the Tangata Manu ceremony, but in what it reveals about the human capacity to create meaning and purpose through symbolic action. The transformation of a simple egg-gathering expedition into a sacred ritual that determined the fate of an entire civilization demonstrates the power of cultural beliefs to shape reality and create significance from the most unlikely materials. The empty stone houses of Orongo continue to guard their secrets, serving as silent witnesses to one of humanity's most extraordinary religious traditions. They remind us that the search for divine favor and legitimate authority has inspired remarkable achievements throughout human history, often taking forms that challenge our understanding of rational behavior and social organization. In their weathered stones and fading petroglyphs, the remains of this ceremonial village pose questions that extend far beyond archaeology and anthropology to fundamental issues about faith, leadership, and the lengths to which people will go in pursuit of spiritual and political authority. What do you think was the true significance of the Tangata Manu ceremony? Could a simple bird egg really have carried enough symbolic weight to justify such a dangerous ritual? Or does the ancient competition hold secrets about leadership, spirituality, and cultural meaning that we have yet to understand? Share your theories about this remarkable ceremonial mystery in the comments below, and subscribe to explore more ancient rituals that challenge our understanding of human motivation and cultural meaning. The vanished forest. Imagine walking through a lush subtropical forest where towering palm trees create a green canopy that filters the Pacific sunlight into dappled patterns on the forest floor. Native birds call from hidden perches, while streams flow crystal clear toward the ocean through valleys carpeted with ferns and flowering plants. You are experiencing Easter Island as it existed 1,000 years ago, a verdant paradise that supported not only a thriving human civilization, but one of the most remarkable ecosystems in the Pacific. Yet as you blink and return to the present, this vision vanishes completely, replaced by rolling grasslands dotted with a few scattered trees, a landscape so barren that early European explorers described it as one of the most desolate places on Earth. This is the mystery of Easter Island's vanished forest, an ecological transformation so complete and dramatic that it represents one of the most severe cases of deforestation in human history, yet occurred through processes that science is still struggling to fully understand. To appreciate the magnitude of Easter Island's ecological transformation, we must first reconstruct the extraordinary ecosystem that once flourished on this remote Pacific island. When Polynesian voyagers first arrived, sometime between 800 and 1200 years ago, they discovered an island unlike any other in their oceanic world, a place where unique geographical conditions had created one of the most remarkable forest ecosystems in the Pacific. The ancient forest of Easter Island was dominated by massive palm trees, possibly the largest palms in the world, towering over 100 feet into the sky, with trunks several feet in diameter. These giants, related to the Chilean wine palm, created a forest canopy that supported dozens of other plant species, from smaller trees and shrubs to vines and epiphytes that found homes in the upper reaches of the towering palms. Pollen studies and archaeological evidence suggest that this forest covered virtually the entire island, creating a closed canopy woodland that fundamentally shaped the climate, water cycle, and soil formation processes that made Easter Island habitable. The forest provided not just timber and other plant resources, but also created the environmental conditions that allowed agriculture and permanent settlement to flourish. The forest ecosystem supported a remarkable array of plant and animal life found nowhere else on Earth. Several species of native trees provided different types of timber for construction and tool making, while numerous shrubs and flowering plants created understory habitats that supported unique communities of insects, spiders, and other small creatures. Native seabirds nested in unprecedented numbers, creating one of the richest bird communities in the Pacific. This forest was not just an ecological treasure, but the foundation of Rapa Nui civilization itself. The palm trees provided timber for the construction of large ocean-going canoes that allowed fishing in deep waters and potential contact with other Pacific islands. Palm nuts may have served as an important food source, while the palm sap could be fermented into alcoholic beverages used in religious ceremonies. The forest also provided the massive wooden rollers and ropes needed to transport the moai statues from their quarries to ceremonial platforms around the island. Without this abundant timber resource, the monumental architecture that defines Easter Island would have been impossible to create. The forest literally made possible the cultural achievements that we associate with Rapa Nui civilization. But perhaps most importantly, the forest created the environmental conditions that allowed Easter Island to support a large human population. Forest cover maintained soil stability, prevented erosion, and regulated the water cycle in ways that supported intensive agriculture. The forest canopy moderated temperature extremes and provided protection from the fierce winds that constantly sweep across this exposed Pacific location. The mystery of Easter Island's ecological transformation first emerged in the late 19th century, when scientists began to study the island's natural history and compare it with early European accounts of the landscape. These investigations revealed clear evidence that the island had once supported extensive forests, yet by the time of European contact, in 1722, almost no trees remained. The first systematic investigation of Easter Island's ecological history began in the mid-20th century, when researchers started to analyze pollen preserved in sediment cores from the island's crater lakes. These studies revealed a detailed record of vegetation change over thousands of years, providing unprecedented insights into when and how the Great Deforestation occurred. Pollen analysis showed that palm trees had dominated Easter Island's vegetation for thousands of contention years before human arrival, creating stable forest ecosystems that had persisted through multiple climate changes and natural disturbances. The forest appeared to be thriving right up until the time when Polynesian settlers first reached the island, suggesting that human arrival coincided with the beginning of ecological decline. The pollen record documented a rapid and dramatic decline in forest cover that began sometime between 800 and 1,000 years ago, coinciding closely with the estimated time of initial human settlement. Within just a few centuries, the dominant palm trees virtually disappeared from the pollen record, indicating complete deforestation of what had been one of the Pacific's most extensive palm forests. Archaeological investigation provided additional evidence of the forest's former extent and the rapidity of its disappearance. Excavations revealed palm wood fragments, palm nut remains, and other botanical evidence scattered throughout ancient settlement sites, confirming that the early Rapa Nui had lived within and depended upon an extensive forest ecosystem. The discovery of palm root casts in volcanic soils provided dramatic physical evidence of the forest's former extent. These ghostly impressions, created when palm trees were buried by volcanic ash and their organic matter decomposed, show that large palms once grew across areas that have been treeless for centuries. But most compelling was the evidence that the forest's disappearance coincided with broader ecological and cultural changes across the island. The loss of forest cover was followed by massive soil erosion, agricultural decline, and ultimately the population crash and social upheaval that marked the end of Easter Island's classical period. But what caused such complete and rapid deforestation? For decades, the conventional explanation focused primarily on human activities, portraying Easter Island as a cautionary tale about the consequences of environmental destruction. However, recent research has revealed a much more complex story involving multiple factors that may have been beyond human control. The traditional human impact theory suggests that the growing Rapa Nui population gradually cleared the forest for agriculture, construction, and fuel, while also harvesting palm trees for the massive timber requirements of Moai transportation. According to this interpretation, deforestation was the inevitable result of a growing human population exploiting finite forest resources without sustainable management practices. This theory gains support from clear evidence of extensive human modification of the landscape, including agricultural terraces, stone structures, and settlement sites that required significant forest clearing. The enormous timber requirements for Moai transportation alone could have consumed hundreds of large trees, while the growing population would have needed increasingly large areas cleared for agriculture. The human impact theory also explains the timing of deforestation, which appears to correlate closely with population growth and the peak period of Moai construction. As the civilization reached its zenith, resource demands may have exceeded the forest's ability to regenerate, leading to irreversible ecological collapse. Archaeological evidence supports this interpretation through the discovery of cut palmwood, evidence of controlled burning, and the systematic conversion of forested areas into agricultural and residential zones. The scale and intensity of human modification suggest that human activities were certainly a major factor in forest loss. However, recent research has revealed that human impact alone may not explain the completeness and rapidity of Easter Island's deforestation. Alternative theories propose that other factors may have played equally important or even dominant roles in the forest's disappearance. The rat introduction theory has gained considerable scientific support in recent years, as researchers have recognized the devastating impact that Polynesian rats had on Pacific Island ecosystems. These small mammals, introduced accidentally by the first human settlers, may have been the primary cause of Easter Island's deforestation through their consumption of palm seeds and prevention of forest regeneration. Archaeological evidence shows that rats reached Easter Island at the same time as human settlers and rapidly established large populations throughout the island. Gnawed palm nut remains found at archaeological sites provide direct evidence that rats were consuming palm seeds on a massive scale, potentially preventing any natural regeneration of the palm forest. Computer modeling studies have suggested that rat predation alone could explain the complete disappearance of Easter Island's palms within just a few centuries of their introduction. Once rats eliminated the ability of palms to reproduce, the existing adult trees would have died of natural causes over time, without any replacement, leading to inevitable forest collapse regardless of human activities. This theory explains several puzzling aspects of Easter Island's deforestation, including why it was so complete and why palm trees disappeared even from areas with little evidence of human activity. If rats were preventing regeneration throughout the island, even light human harvesting could have led to total forest loss over time. The rat theory also explains why reforestation efforts on modern Easter Island have been so difficult, as introduced rats continue to consume seeds and seedlings of native plants, preventing natural forest recovery even in areas where humans are actively trying to restore vegetation. Climate change represents another factor that may have contributed significantly to Easter Island's deforestation. Paleoclimate studies have revealed that the Pacific region experienced significant climate fluctuations during the medieval period, including changes in temperature, precipitation, and storm patterns that could have stressed forest ecosystems. The medieval warm period, followed by the Little Ice Age, brought changing weather patterns that may have made Easter Island's climate less suitable for palm forest growth. Shifts in rainfall patterns, increased storm frequency, or temperature changes could have weakened forest health and made trees more vulnerable to human impacts and rat predation. Climate change could also explain why deforestation occurred so rapidly and completely. If climate shifts reduce the forest's ability to regenerate or survive environmental stress, even modest human activities could have triggered irreversible ecological collapse. Drought periods documented in Pacific paleoclimate records could have been particularly devastating for Easter Island's forest, as palm trees require significant water resources to maintain their massive size and growth rates. Extended dry periods could have killed large numbers of adult trees while preventing successful regeneration. Volcanic activity presents another potential factor in Easter Island's deforestation that has received less attention but may have played an important role. Easter Island sits atop three major volcanic centers, and periodic eruptions over the centuries could have directly destroyed forest areas or created environmental conditions that prevented forest recovery. Volcanic ash deposits could have buried forest soils and altered drainage patterns in ways that made forest regeneration difficult or impossible. Even relatively small eruptions could have created localized environmental changes that fragmented forest habitats and reduced their overall resilience. Volcanic gases released during eruptions could have created air quality conditions that stressed forest vegetation, while volcanic activity might have altered groundwater flow patterns that palm forests depended upon for survival. The timing of some volcanic activity appears to correlate with periods of forest decline, suggesting that eruptions may have accelerated deforestation processes that were already underway due to other factors. More complex theories propose that Easter Island's deforestation resulted from interactions between multiple factors rather than any single cause. According to these multi-factor models, climate change may have weakened forest health, making trees more vulnerable to rat predation and human harvesting that individually might not have caused complete deforestation. This integrated approach explains why Easter Island's forest disappeared so completely when similar human impacts on other Pacific islands often led to forest degradation rather than total elimination. The unique combination of factors affecting Easter Island may have created a perfect storm of ecological pressures that overwhelmed the forest's ability to survive and regenerate. Modern scientific investigation has brought sophisticated new tools to bear on the mystery of Easter Island's vanished forest, providing increasingly detailed pictures of how and when deforestation occurred, while revealing additional complexity in the ecological processes involved. High-resolution pollen analysis using advanced extraction and dating techniques has provided much more detailed timelines of forest decline, revealing that deforestation occurred in waves rather than as a single continuous process. These studies show that different tree species disappeared at different times, suggesting complex ecological interactions rather than simple human clear-cutting. Genetic analysis of preserved plant remains has provided insights into the diversity and relationships of Easter Island's ancient forest species, revealing that the island once supported much greater botanical diversity than previously recognized. Some plant species appear to have been unique to Easter Island, representing evolutionary adaptations that were lost forever when the forest disappeared. Soil chemistry analysis has revealed the long-term environmental consequences of deforestation, showing how forest loss led to massive erosion and soil degradation that continues to affect the island's ecology today. These studies demonstrate that deforestation created environmental changes that would have been extremely difficult to reverse, even if human practices had changed. Archaeological microscopic analysis has provided new evidence about the uses of different wood species and the specific human activities that may have contributed to forest loss. These studies show that palmwood was used for a much wider range of purposes than previously recognized, suggesting that human demand for forest resources was even greater than traditional theories assumed. Computer modeling of ecological processes has tested various deforestation scenarios under different assumptions about climate, rat populations, and human activities. These models help researchers understand which combinations of factors could have produced the rapid and complete forest loss observed in the paleoecological record. Experimental studies of rat impacts on modern palm populations have provided direct evidence of how introduced rodents can prevent forest regeneration, supporting theories about the role of rats in Easter Island's historical deforestation. Despite these advances, the mystery of Easter Island's vanished forest remains incompletely solved, with ongoing debates about the relative importance of different factors and the specific mechanisms that led to such complete ecological transformation. Today, Easter Island's treeless landscape faces new environmental challenges that echo and amplify the ecological problems created by historical deforestation. Climate change is bringing new weather extremes that affect the island's already fragile ecosystems, while rising sea levels threaten coastal areas where some native plants still survive. Modern reforestation efforts face enormous challenges due to the environmental legacy of historical deforestation. Soil erosion, altered drainage patterns, and the continued presence of introduced species make it extremely difficult to restore native forest ecosystems even with intensive human intervention. The few remaining native plants on Easter Island represent invaluable genetic resources that could potentially be used for forest restoration, but these surviving populations are extremely vulnerable to climate change, invasive species, and human disturbance. Tourism and development pressures create ongoing challenges for ecosystem restoration, while also providing economic incentives for environmental protection. Balancing conservation needs with economic development requires careful planning and significant community commitment. International conservation efforts are working to develop restoration techniques that could potentially bring back at least some aspects of Easter Island's native forest ecosystems. These projects face enormous technical challenges, but represent hope for partially reversing one of history's most dramatic ecological transformations. The lesson of Easter Island's vanished forest extends far beyond this remote Pacific island to global concerns about deforestation, species extinction, and ecosystem collapse. The island serves as both a warning about environmental vulnerability and a natural laboratory for understanding how complex ecological systems respond to multiple stresses. Standing in Easter Island's grasslands today, trying to envision the towering palm forest that once covered this landscape, the magnitude of what was lost becomes almost incomprehensible. An entire ecosystem, unique in the world and millions of years in the making, vanished in just a few centuries, through processes that we are still working to understand. The vanished forest represents more than just environmental destruction. It symbolizes the fragility of the natural systems that human civilizations depend upon for survival. The forest was not just a collection of trees, but the foundation that made Easter Island's remarkable culture possible, from the monumental architecture to the complex society that created it. Perhaps most troubling, the mystery of how the forest disappeared so completely, despite its apparent stability over thousands of years, challenges our confidence in predicting and preventing ecological collapse. If such a vast and well-established forest could vanish so rapidly, what does this tell us about the stability of other ecosystems that we take for granted? The empty grasslands of Easter Island serve as a powerful reminder that environmental destruction can be irreversible, that ecosystems, representing millions of years of evolution, can be lost in just a few generations through processes that may be beyond human control once they begin. Yet the ongoing efforts to understand and potentially restore Easter Island's forest also demonstrate human capacity for learning from environmental mistakes and working to repair ecological damage. The island serves as both a cautionary tale and a testing ground for restoration techniques that could help address global environmental challenges. In their silent testimony to vanished biodiversity, Easter Island's grasslands pose questions that extend far beyond historical ecology to fundamental issues about sustainability, environmental protection, and our relationship with the natural world that sustains all human civilization. What do you think was the primary cause of Easter Island's dramatic deforestation? Could human activities alone have destroyed such an extensive forest so completely? Or did climate change, introduced species, and other factors play the dominant role in this ecological catastrophe? Share your thoughts about this environmental mystery in the comments below, and subscribe to explore more ancient puzzles that challenge our understanding of human impact on the natural world. The compass alignment. Imagine standing on Easter Island at dawn, watching the first light of day illuminate the faces of 7 towering Moai statues that gaze not toward the rising sun or out across the endless Pacific, but steadily inland toward the heart of the island itself. As you move among these ancient giants, you begin to notice something extraordinary. Their positions seem far from random. Some appear to align with specific points on the horizon where certain stars rise or set, while others point toward distant volcanic peaks with mathematical precision that suggests deliberate astronomical planning. You realize that what appears to be simple ancestral sculpture may actually represent one of the most sophisticated star maps ever carved in stone, a cosmic calendar created by master astronomers whose knowledge of celestial mechanics rivals that of any ancient civilization. This is the mystery of Easter Island's compass alignment, a discovery that challenges everything we thought we knew about the Rapa Nui people, and suggests they possessed astronomical knowledge that transformed their entire landscape into a massive three-dimensional representation of the heavens above. To understand the significance of Moai orientations and alignments, we must first appreciate the central role that astronomy played in Polynesian navigation and culture. The Rapa Nui were descendants of master voyagers who had traversed thousands of miles of open ocean, using nothing but their knowledge of stars, currents, and natural signs to find their way across the Pacific. This navigational expertise required extraordinarily detailed understanding of celestial movements and seasonal patterns. For Polynesian navigators, the sky was not just a source of direction, but a complex map that revealed information about location, season, weather patterns, and the timing of crucial activities like planting and harvesting. Stars served as compasses, calendars, and clocks all in one, providing essential information for survival in the challenging environment of remote Pacific islands. When the ancestors of the Rapa Nui first reached Easter Island, they brought with them this sophisticated astronomical knowledge, along with cultural traditions that saw deep connections between earthly activities and celestial events. The construction of monumental architecture aligned with astronomical phenomena was a common practice throughout Polynesia, reflecting beliefs about the relationship between human society and cosmic order. On Easter Island, this astronomical tradition took a unique form through the construction and placement of Moai statues. Unlike the temporary star maps and navigation aids used by other Pacific cultures, the Rapa Nui created permanent stone monuments that encoded astronomical information in their very positions and orientations, transforming the entire island into a massive celestial observatory. The Moai were never intended to be random decorations, or simple representations of ancestors. Each statue was carefully positioned according to complex planning that took into account not just local topography and social considerations, but also the movements of celestial bodies across the sky. The result was a landscape-scale astronomical instrument that could track seasonal changes, predict important celestial events, and maintain crucial calendar information across generations. The most obvious aspect of Moai astronomy is their directional orientation. Contrary to popular belief, most Moai do not face the ocean, but rather look inland toward specific points of significance. This inland orientation initially puzzled researchers, who expected ancestral guardians to face outward to protect the island from external threats. However, astronomical analysis reveals that these inland orientations align with precise compass directions that correspond to important celestial events. The famous seven Moai of Ahu Tongariki, for example, face almost due east, positioned to observe the rising of specific stars and constellations that were crucial for Polynesian navigation and timekeeping. Other statue groups point toward cardinal directions or specific degrees of azimuth that correspond to the positions where important celestial bodies appear on the horizon during significant seasons. But the astronomical alignments extend far beyond simple cardinal directions. Some Moai appear to be positioned to mark the extreme positions of celestial bodies during their annual cycles, such as the points where the sun rises and sets during the summer and winter solstices, or the maximum northern and southern positions of the moon during its complex 18-year cycle. The mystery of Moai astronomical alignments first captured scientific attention in the late 20th century, when researchers began applying archaeoastronomical analysis to Easter Island's monumental architecture. These studies revealed patterns in statue orientations that seemed far too consistent to be coincidental, suggesting deliberate astronomical planning in Moai placement. The breakthrough came when archaeologist William Malloy began systematic surveys of Moai orientations in the 1970s, documenting the precise directional alignments of statues across the island. His work revealed that many statue groups shared common orientational patterns that corresponded to astronomically significant directions, challenging traditional interpretations that focus solely on social and religious factors in Moai placement. Subsequent research by archaeoastronomers like Anthony Aveni and Edmundo Edwards expanded this analysis to include more sophisticated calculations of ancient sky conditions, taking into account the precession of Earth's axis and other factors that affect the apparent positions of celestial bodies over time. These studies confirmed that many Moai alignments corresponded to important astronomical events as they would have appeared in the sky during the period of statue construction. The discovery that some Moai alignments pointed to specific stars or stellar configurations led to investigations of whether particular celestial objects held special significance for the Rapa Nui people. Research into Polynesian star knowledge revealed that certain stars and constellations were crucial for navigation, timekeeping, and agricultural planning throughout the Pacific, suggesting that these same celestial markers might have influenced Moai placement on Easter Island. Ground-penetrating radar and other remote sensing techniques revealed that some Moai sites incorporated additional architectural features that were not visible from surface observation. These hidden elements, including buried stone pavements and foundation structures, showed evidence of precise geometric planning that supported astronomical interpretation of statue alignments. The most dramatic discoveries came from computer analysis of satellite imagery and high-precision GPS measurements of Moai positions. These technologies allowed researchers to identify alignment patterns that were not apparent from ground-level observation, revealing a level of astronomical sophistication that exceeded even the most optimistic estimates of Rapa Nui knowledge. But what specific astronomical knowledge did these alignments represent? Researchers have proposed several theories about the celestial information encoded in Moai orientations and the purposes such astronomical monuments might have served. The most straightforward interpretation suggests that Moai alignments served as a permanent calendar system that helped the Rapa Nui track seasonal changes and plan agricultural activities. Many statue orientations correspond to positions where the sun appears on the horizon during important times of the year, such as the equinoxes and solstices that mark major seasonal transitions. This calendrical theory explains why so many moai face inland rather than toward the ocean. To observe solar alignments effectively, statues needed to point toward specific points on the island's horizon, where the sun would appear during significant seasons. Ocean-facing statues would have been useless for this purpose, since the sun never rises or sets over the ocean from Easter Island's perspective. The agricultural calendar interpretation gains support from evidence that many moai sites are associated with ancient farming areas and water sources. Statues positioned to mark important solar dates would have provided crucial information for timing, planting, and harvesting activities, ensuring optimal agricultural productivity in Easter Island's challenging environment. Some researchers have identified alignments that correspond to the heliacal rising of important stars, the first appearance of stellar objects before dawn, after periods of invisibility. These events were traditionally used throughout Polynesia to mark seasonal transitions and coordinate community activities, suggesting that moai might have served similar functions on Easter Island. A second theory proposes that moai alignments preserved navigational information that was crucial for maintaining contact with other Pacific islands. According to this interpretation, statue orientations encoded star compass directions that could guide ocean voyagers to distant destinations, serving as permanent reference points for navigational knowledge. This navigational theory explains the precision of many moai alignments, which correspond exactly to the bearing directions of important star rises and sets as viewed from Easter Island. Such precise directional information would have been essential for long-distance navigation, allowing navigators to maintain accurate headings during extended ocean voyages. The theory also explains why moai continued to be built and maintained over several centuries. As navigational knowledge was crucial for survival on an isolated island, communities would have invested considerable effort in preserving this information in permanent stone monuments that could survive changes in leadership and social organization. Archaeological evidence supports this interpretation through the discovery of traditional navigation tools and ocean-related artifacts at some moai sites. These findings suggest that statue platforms served as locations where navigational knowledge was taught and preserved, making astronomical alignments an integral part of this educational function. A third theory suggests that moai alignments represented sophisticated astronomical observations that went far beyond basic calendar and navigation needs. According to this interpretation, the Rapa Nui developed advanced understanding of complex celestial mechanics, including lunar cycles, planetary movements, and the precession of stellar positions over long time periods. This advanced astronomy theory finds support in alignments that correspond to subtle celestial phenomena that would require generations of careful observation to detect and understand. Some moai orientations appear to mark the extreme positions of the moon's complex cycle, which takes over 18 years to complete and requires sophisticated mathematical understanding to predict accurately. Other statue alignments may correspond to the positions of planets during specific seasons, or the locations where particular star groups appear during important ceremonial periods. Such precise astronomical knowledge would represent remarkable intellectual achievement for any ancient civilization, placing the Rapa Nui among the most sophisticated astronomers of the prehistoric world. The discovery of petroglyphic art at some moai sites that appears to represent astronomical symbols and celestial events provides additional support for advanced astronomical interpretation. These carvings suggest that the Rapa Nui maintained detailed records of celestial observations and incorporated this information into their monumental architecture. More speculative theories propose that moai alignments encoded knowledge about cosmic cycles and astronomical events that extended far beyond practical applications for agriculture and navigation. Some researchers have suggested that statue orientations might represent attempts to predict rare celestial events, like eclipses, comets, or planetary conjunctions that held special spiritual significance. This cosmic knowledge theory proposes that the Rapa Nui viewed astronomical phenomena as manifestations of divine power that could be influenced or predicted through proper understanding and ritual observance. Moai aligned with specific celestial events might have served as focal points for ceremonies designed to maintain harmony between earthly and cosmic forces. The most ambitious versions of this theory suggest that Easter Island's entire landscape was designed as a three-dimensional model of the universe, with Moai representing stellar positions and their alignments encoding complex astronomical relationships that reflected Rapa Nui cosmological beliefs. While such theories remain speculative, they are supported by similar practices in other ancient civilizations that used monumental architecture to represent cosmic knowledge and maintain connections between human society and celestial phenomena. Modern scientific investigation has brought increasingly sophisticated tools and methodologies to bear on the mystery of Moai astronomical alignments, providing new insights while revealing additional layers of complexity in these ancient monuments. Satellite-based GPS systems have allowed researchers to measure Moai orientations with unprecedented precision, revealing alignment patterns that were not apparent from earlier ground-based surveys. These measurements have confirmed many suspected astronomical correlations while identifying new alignments that suggest even greater sophistication in Rapa Nui astronomical knowledge. Computer modeling of ancient sky conditions has become crucial for understanding how celestial phenomena would have appeared to the Rapa Nui during different periods of Moai construction. These simulations take into account the gradual changes in Earth's orbit and rotation that affect the apparent positions of stars and planets over centuries, allowing researchers to reconstruct the exact sky conditions that influence statue placement. Three-dimensional laser scanning of Moai sites has revealed previously unnoticed architectural details that may be related to astronomical observations. Some statues show evidence of precise leveling and orientation techniques that suggest the use of sophisticated surveying methods, possibly based on astronomical observations of celestial objects at specific times and seasons. Statistical analysis of Moai orientations has tested whether observed alignment patterns could have occurred by chance, providing mathematical support for astronomical interpretation of statue placement. These studies have confirmed that the probability of random placement producing the observed patterns is extremely low, strongly supporting deliberate astronomical planning. Ground-penetrating radar surveys have revealed buried architectural features at some Moai sites that appear to be aligned with astronomical phenomena. These hidden structures suggest that the astronomical functions of Moai sites were more complex than visible surface features would indicate, possibly incorporating underground chambers or platforms designed for specific observational purposes. Despite these technological advances, many aspects of Moai astronomical alignments remain mysterious, with ongoing debates about the specific knowledge and purposes these monuments represented. Today, the astronomical secrets of Easter Island's Moai face new challenges that threaten both their preservation and our ability to understand their celestial significance. Climate change is accelerating erosion and weathering processes that affect the precise orientations crucial for astronomical analysis, while rising sea levels threaten coastal statue sites. Light pollution from modern development, while minimal on remote Easter Island, is beginning to affect the visibility of celestial phenomena that were crucial for ancient astronomical observations. Understanding Moai alignments requires appreciation of sky conditions as they existed centuries ago, but increasing artificial lighting makes it harder to experience and understand these ancient perspectives. Tourism pressure, creates both opportunities and challenges for studying Moai astronomy. Visitor interest provides funding for advanced research techniques, but also increases the risk of damage to precisely positioned monuments whose exact orientations are crucial for understanding their astronomical functions. Documentation efforts focus on recording exact measurements and orientations before environmental changes or human activities alter these crucial parameters. High-precision surveys create permanent records that will allow future researchers to understand astronomical alignments, even if physical monuments are damaged or displaced. The challenge of interpreting astronomical alignments requires collaboration between archaeologists, astronomers, and specialists in traditional Polynesian knowledge systems. Understanding the cultural context of astronomical practices is as important as measuring precise alignments, requiring interdisciplinary approaches that combine technical precision with cultural sensitivity. Conservation efforts must balance the need to protect Moai from environmental damage with the importance of maintaining their precise orientations and site contexts that are essential for astronomical interpretation. Each intervention requires careful consideration of how preservation activities might affect our ability to understand these monuments' celestial functions. International collaboration brings together expertise from multiple institutions to address the complex challenges involved in studying and preserving Moai astronomical alignments. These efforts ensure that crucial knowledge about ancient astronomical practices will survive even as environmental and social conditions continue to change. Standing once again among these ancient stone astronomers, watching stars wheel overhead in patterns that guided their placement centuries ago, the magnitude of Rapa Nui achievement becomes overwhelming. How did an isolated Pacific civilization develop astronomical knowledge sophisticated enough to transform an entire island into a cosmic observatory? The compass alignment mystery challenges fundamental assumptions about the relationship between technological development and intellectual achievement. The Rapa Nui created one of the world's most sophisticated astronomical monuments using only stone tools and careful observation, proving that remarkable scientific understanding can emerge from any cultural context given sufficient time and dedication. In their precise orientations and mathematical relationships, the Moai demonstrate that ancient peoples were capable of intellectual achievements that rival those of any civilization. They serve as permanent testimony to human curiosity about the cosmos and our drive to understand our place in the universe through careful observation and analysis. Perhaps most remarkably, these stone astronomers continue to function as intended centuries after their creation. The alignments still point to the same celestial phenomena, the orientations still mark important seasonal events, and the astronomical relationships still reveal the sophisticated knowledge of their creators to anyone willing to study the sky as the Rapa Nui did. The Moai remind us that astronomy has always been both practical and spiritual, serving essential functions for agriculture, navigation, and calendar keeping, while also connecting human society to cosmic forces that transcend individual lifespans. In their dual role as ancestors and astronomers, these monuments embody the deep human need to find meaning and guidance in the movements of celestial bodies. Their silence holds secrets that challenge us to expand our understanding of ancient knowledge systems and respect the intellectual achievements of cultures that approached scientific problems from different perspectives than our own. They ensure that Easter Island will continue to surprise and inspire researchers who seek to understand the full scope of human astronomical achievement. What do you think the Moai alignments reveal about Rapa Nui astronomical knowledge? Could these ancient stone astronomers represent one of the most sophisticated prehistoric observatories ever created? Or do their celestial orientations hold secrets about cosmic understanding that we have yet to fully appreciate? Share your thoughts about this remarkable astronomical mystery in the comments below, and subscribe to explore more ancient achievements that challenge our understanding of human knowledge and scientific capability.